All right, folks, welcome back. There you go. All right, so still playing Havoc here. Can you hear me now? All right, can you hear me now? I got the no sound message. Thank you very much. You should be able to hear me now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, into Indaba, Africa. This is Chris coming to you live from central Pennsylvania. Thank you, Yanni. You guys can hear the sound. That's good. Excellent. Welcome aboard, everybody. Happy to see everybody here. And I hope you don't mind the Aurora Borealis behind me. It's not real. It's virtual. And you can see that because obviously I can't wipe out the world with my hands there. But anyway, folks, thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate you being here today. We'll do a little bit of housekeeping and talk about what's going on. So welcome to folks around the world, UK, Ireland, Germany, Österreich, Frankreich, La France, Ghana, South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, Malawi, the warm heart of Africa. Wherever you find yourselves today, ladies and gentlemen, whether it's in New Zealand, Malaysia, Japan, or Singapore. Happy to have you there. So, Lezan, you're there. Okay, let me say hello to everybody. And I take it everybody hears me fine now. Keith, cool, Northern Lights. You like that? Cool. Yep, I do too. It's pretty cool. I thought I'd put that up there. So what you're seeing now, ladies and gentlemen, is actually a Zoom meeting. I've created a Zoom meeting and put myself in it and then brought it into the stream. Yanni and I worked through this earlier. Thank you so much for your assistance, Yanni. Between the two of us, we somehow figured it out, although I like to think it was mostly your help that figured it out, but somehow we sorted it out. Yeah, no, what's this? Okay, all right, good. So, Yanni was worried that it wasn't working now. So get you online, Lynn. Good to see you, Lynn. And by the way, Lynn became a member of Chris White Africa. Thank you so much for that, Lynn. I really appreciate that. You did it late in the stream. I didn't get a chance to welcome you as a member, so welcome to Lynn as a new member. Remember haircut and beard trim, Notorious G. Nigel's there. Marius Crew Comp is the chop area in the foreground. Yeah. The live stream is the only show on YouTube I look forward to. I cannot wait for the day when he becomes mainstream, everyone's lips. Wow, Vutsarko, that's very kind of you. Thank you so much for that. Lynn Erasmus says hello to everybody. Heinrich Becker. Heinrich is saying nice things about me. You guys can read it in the chat. I'm not going to repeat that. That's very nice. Thank you. Aina, good to see you here. Anybody watching Cyril Ramaphosa? Yeah, he was on earlier. Is he on again? I don't think I can stomach another round of Cyril. Bradley Cook, it was staged, prompted questions, prepped answers, cover-up attempt to gain country trust. It was a waste of time. Well, I think that sums it up, ladies and gentlemen. Bradley Cook, thank you so much. You've saved us all the analysis because you are spot on, my friend. That is exactly what happened there. Now, for some reason, I don't see Lezan's coming up. Lezan has upgraded her membership to Master and Commander. Thank you so much, Lezan. I don't know why that's... Oh, that's why. Okay. Clicked it off. No, that's not it. Member goal is not what we want. Super chats, straight. Anyway, I don't know why it's not there, but Lezan has upgraded her membership, and somebody came in and added a membership, and then they deleted the message, so I didn't catch who that was. I'll try to go back and catch that so I can give you credit for that, but thank you so much. Back to the chat, and who's here? Gerd von Rinsberg, Janse von Rinsberg. CR did not even try to sell the BS. He even looked bored. Yeah, you know it's a bad sign when the president sits there and he looks bored with his own conversation. Don't you think? And I think that's really what we saw from Cyril Ramaphosa tonight. He was so hot full of telling the fairy tale. It's like the Grimm's fairy tales. This was like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And the seven ministers would be his dwarfs. Anyway, yeah. Fonz is here, Variable Vision, Acid Zill. Thank you for checking in earlier, Acid Zill, trying to help me get going with this stream and getting the Zoom in there. Ina says, should have called in with his vast knowledge. Yeah, he's not going to take my call. Trust me. Okay, Cyril's energy is so contagious. He's so excitable and inspiring. I feel super motivated to go wash my hands and get away from people. Well said, Heinrich. Exactly right. You feel like you want to get away from people. All right, so... That's awesome. Petrus Ostoisen, good to see you there. Nigel, Azazioba here. Did I miss Azioba? Okay, welcome, Azioba. And Tian VJ, Anne-Marie Jenkins, usual suspects. There's Yanni once again. That's all before we even started the stream. So let me catch up now. Keith Alderson, good to see you here. Yeah, afternoon coffee and chat session. People, it's cathartic for them. And this is no sound. I got the sound back up. Yeah, Yanni's like, no, we fixed it. It was my error. It was on my end. So we're good to go. There's Azioba. Good to see you. Slotsteenkamp, Lezan's membership upgraded. Thank you so much for that. Yanni says it was a pleasure. It's the same, my friend. If you want to know somebody really cool, folks, get to know Yanni van der Walt. Such a good, gentle human being. Really nice guy. Okay. Paulie says evening and team. I see it's catching on. Trying to get people to say team. That's right. We're a team here. Excellent. Slot, Gerhard Bye, Livid. Good to see you there. Robert ZA, welcome everybody. Hey, so we got 62 people in the stream right now. Thank you so much. Let me take this off. There we go. The curly hair going there once again. I need a shower not long ago. Reese, whoa, no way. Reese Fundeveld has become a member. Look at that. Whoa, at the platoon leader level. Well, thank you so much, Reese. That, ladies and gentlemen, that would be the small business owner of the Hair Tribe, the co-owner, Reese Fundeveld, who owns a hair salon in Sunning Hill in Johannesburg. Welcome, Reese. For those who missed it, Saturday on Chris White Africa, the Indaba Africa channel, we had a stream with Reese on here talking about reopening small business in the midst of lockdown and some of the restrictions being lifted. And of course, Reese works in one of the industries most heavily impacted by the draconian lockdown requirements in South Africa. And so I thought it'd be a good idea to bring someone who deals with this directly, the challenges faced, the uncertainty about whether your business would survive and what would happen. And so we had Reese on here. She was a brilliant guest. And for once, I actually cut off my stream at the hour mark that I was shooting for. But that's because I had to go into germ warfare. Reese and I think probably could have gone on for a long time. Yanni has just put the link in there to watch that stream. You should check it out. It's just an hour. It won't take that much of your time. Reese was a fantastic guest. She had a lot of good things to add and some great insights as a small business owner. Really, really enjoyed it. Smokers getting a break. What's going on with smokers getting a break? Okay. All right. So how are you guys? Let me see. Two things. First off, in case you didn't catch it, the mayor of Seattle has found her voice or her pen. She signed an executive order in which she ordered the police to go back in and dismantle the autonomous zone, or as the cowards rename themselves, CHOP. Because they're not a zone anymore, because they're not autonomous. They don't want to be charged with treason, but it's too late. You should be charged with treason. But they sent the police back in to occupy their police stations now that several people have been shot and a few killed in this lunatic insurrection taking place in Seattle. This mayor, who should be recalled and criminally tried, although she'll have qualified immunity because she's a politician, but it's a shame that she has qualified immunity because she has let down people and her actions are directly responsible for the nonsense that took place there. Yes, other people took the actions, but her decision to stand down and allow lawlessness to take place in a city that she's responsible for the safety of bears direct responsibility in what happened there and in the deaths. And God knows how many robberies, rapes, assaults, and other things that took place because there was no one in there recording these things. Yeah, so she has did that this morning. If you missed the footage, you missed the news. The police went back into Chaz Chop, and they only arrested 10 people. So you know that's pretty fishy. Anyway, and will they be turned over to the feckless Federal Bureau of Investigation, which was so inept at intelligence that it didn't even know that Antifa was a terrorist group and had no idea that a coordinated armed insurrection would be taking place in our metropolitan areas over the flimsy of excuses. Yep, so that did happen. And, of course, we had Cyril Ramaphosa come on. Acid Zill says you should do it in a Cronus true image of your computer, so if everything goes wrong, you can get everything back. That's how it is now. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Good point. Herculani, I always get that wrong. Metro Police, that's over near OR Tambo there. Summer of Love on CNN. Reese loves hairy blokes. Okay, I know. Right, guys, so why don't we do this? Is anybody interested in calling in? We can talk about Cyril Ramaphosa, but before I take the calls, I just want to see if I get some yes. If you guys say yes, call in. Then I don't want to beg for calls, but if you say yes, call in, then we'll take some calls. And I've got the Zoom set up, so we might as well use it. Let me put my earpiece in so that I can hear folks if they do call in. But in the meantime, let's talk about Ramaphosa. It was fascinating. It was fascinating for me to listen to Cyril Ramaphosa talk about ESCOM. And he is rewriting history as we go. Okay, people want the call in, so we'll do that in just a moment. Let me talk about Cyril Ramaphosa briefly, and then we'll give us a little food, a little fodder for discussion. So it's fascinating to listen to Cyril Ramaphosa talk about the reason that a lot of black South Africans didn't have electricity is because ESCOM needed to be state-owned. And see, since it's state-owned, it's now delivered electricity to millions of black South Africans. Well, yeah, ESCOM was also state-owned under the National Party, was it not? Yeah, it had very little to do with the fact that the company has the ability, and has even less to do with the fact that the African National Congress's, corrupt management and control of the state-owned enterprise is the reason why many black South Africans now have electricity. No, that's not the reason. It happened in spite of them. Here in the United States, we have public utilities, we have private utilities, we had private telephone companies, and the federal government intervened into the telephone sector, applying taxes that applied to everyone, so that money could be put into a fund to ensure that telephone lines went throughout the country, including the rural areas. It was a public good. it was a rare instance where I agree that taxation has an appropriate role in affecting a change, because without that, we would have had much of the country never getting access to telephones, landlines in this country. But that system was set up. Now, what's wrong with that is that once the networks were in place, the taxes stayed forever. But the point is that you can have the government play a positive role, but the government doesn't have to own the means of production. The government doesn't need to own ESCOM or power plants. It should allow commercial operators. And see, that's the danger. Once they allow commercial operators to operate in the same space that ESCOM does, ESCOM will go out of business very quickly, and private operators will be there. And then with private operators, the ANC can't stuff the boards with their own cronies and hacks, and they can't pilfer, and they can't put useless ANC cadres in a little parking spot to give them a salary. Yeah, so there you go. So he rewrites history to say that the reason why a lot of black South Africans have electricity now is because of ESCOM. True, but he says that's because it's state-owned by the ANC. No, that's not why. That's not why. Not at all. Okay, so let's see if we can get some folks in here in a call. So let me go ahead and find out what the meeting, I got to pull this up just a second here, folks. I wasn't sure you guys want to do this, so I've got to find my Zoom. Where's my Zoom window at? There it is. Okay, there's the Zoom window. Okay, so I'm going to copy the link, and you shouldn't need the password. That's what we discovered earlier. You should just be able to use this. So here it is. Paste and go for it. Okay, so that's in there now. That is the window, or the Zoom window call in. So if you want to call in right now and talk about something, go ahead. And the way we'll do this is once I get more than one person in the conversation, I'll just run the conversation. Whoa, Ozzy Alba is already there. Admit, okay. Now we have to just make sure I can actually hear when he comes in, okay? Because that was the problem we had earlier. So there's Ozzy Alba. Okay, I see video, and hopefully the audio is connected. Oh, the video went away. Audio is connecting. Okay, and we got Nigel.
Can you hear me?
Audio is connecting. Okay, and we got Nigel. Can
you hear me?
Okay, Ozzy Alba. Are you there?
Yeah. Okay, let me just, sorry, switch off the video. Okay, can you hear me well?
I can hear you.
Perfect. Okay, so what I wanted to talk to you about is American business in Africa. First of all, I want to thank you for accepting my LinkedIn invite from earlier regarding the smart lock system. Currently, my company is a distributor of an American smart lock called Optical Lock. And since 2018, I started off with testing the lock in South Africa, getting it localized and working because, of course, you know, it was designed for American markets. You get things like timestamps and things that need to be calibrated, etc. And once it reached full development, I've just been trying to market it in South Africa, but haven't really been able to get much success because, again, South African companies prefer their own analog systems. I've also noticed that, you know, Chinese technology is becoming more popular in South Africa as well. So one of the questions I'd like to ask is, how can we make it more attractive for South African companies, both private and public, to, you know, choose an American-made product than a Chinese one? Another example I have is when I was doing work in Namibia with the mobile payment system, they use Huawei smartphones. It was very good, very advanced, and very cost-effective. But the fact that, you know, Southern Africa is choosing Chinese technology over American does make it more difficult to sell American products.
I lost the last part there. So the question was, how Huawei is because Huawei is in the Southern African market. You're asking how to get American products in, or did I miss something? Sorry.
Yeah. So how do you give American products a competitive edge? Like, how do you market it as a more attractive option rather than, you know, a Chinese-made smart lock or a Chinese-made phone?
Oh, well, it depends entirely on the product, would be my argument. So if you're trying to sell an American product in South Africa, then your focus, I think part of your focus should be on the security of it. That's one piece of it. You're going to want to address the security, how reliable security is. If you're dealing with a vendor that's been around for a long period of time, you can talk about reliability and quality. That helps. beyond that, I think the problem we have here is that there's a lot of folks that are simply buying something because it's inexpensive. And the reason it's inexpensive is because, for instance, Huawei has stolen most of the technology that they're using from others who spent billions developing it. But that's not an issue for you or me. That's an issue for national authorities in Beijing and also in Washington. But marketing it, the thing is, a lot of this comes down to marketing, and even in Africa, you really have to look at marketing, how you sell these things. And some things I just suggested, I think, are some good ideas to help market it and get a brand. I mean, there was a time that everybody wanted U.S. robotics the world over. That's what they wanted to dial up. And it was actually with U.S. robotics, it was almost by happenstance. It wasn't by design. They didn't market. It's just that it was so reliable and it was affordable. And people's word of mouth, and it was available, and that's the thing. Availability is part of it too. You can't have a product that's only available in certain places, only available occasionally, because then you don't get the reliability. You can't go and get it. So, for instance, I was trying to get a laptop a few weeks back, and I went and I wanted an HP, but I wanted a specific HP, and nobody had it, so I just gave up. And I may not go back looking for the HP again. So that's part of it. I don't know if that helps you.
Yeah, no, that does make sense to me. And yes, America was dominant. I do remember though the Japanese, were also very competitive, but America was able to, apply, I think it was sanctions or something. I think it was the Reagan administration who really clamped down on Japanese products, because the thing is that they were selling very cheap products to the States. And what happened is that, Reagan administration, I think it was cars that they were selling. I can't remember the exact product, but the one thing about Chinese products is, yes, the cost factor. The Huawei phone is much cheaper than like a Samsung or iPhone, so they would go for that. The same would go with a smart lock as well. People look at that cost effectiveness, and yes, as you said, China is able to make it cheaper because they, the research and development, was not always their own. And also their labor costs are much cheaper in China as well. So it's hard to compete when people prefer to choose price over quality.
Well, but what you have to do with this, and let me give you an anecdotal story to explain exactly what you have to do, especially with Chinese products. So, for instance, I was in Liberia rebuilding the armed forces of Liberia. And we were told that we could only source material for ablution units, the toilets and showers and the buildings and such. We could only source it from local vendors. Okay, that makes sense because we're going to leave and the Liberians must maintain these facilities and run this army on their own. So we can't, be putting all these Moen, the French brand of, quality commodes or other brands that we have here in the US or Canada, because they're very expensive and you can't source them in Liberia. So in order to replace the commode lids and the flush handles and the pipes and the fixtures for the sinks and everything, what we did is we bought locally. Well, what do you think was available in the local market? Not the quality French stuff that you pay $350 for one item. No, the stuff that costs $35 because it's made in China and it's poor quality. Now, I'm not lambasting Chinese products. iPhones are made in China by Apple, and they're top. I hate Apple, but they're top drawer products. What I'm saying is that the Chinese are shipping their inferior consumer products to Africa, and they've been doing it for decades and getting away with it. And so if you source in the local market in Liberia and all you can buy is plastic toilet commode seats from a Chinese vendor when you're buying it from Lebanese or Liberians, but you buy it, you take it. And the problem with ablution units for soldiers is that they use them a lot. So you have a lot of soldiers using the same showers, the same commodes, the same sinks, and they're rough on them, of course. They're soldiers, they come in from the field, they're washing their kit there, they're taking care of their own personal business. And as a consequence, you wind up replacing the commode seats, the fixtures, the bowls, and everything 4, 5, 6, 7 times in a year. And you actually pay far more for the product than you do for buying quality. So my argument that I would suggest if you're trying to get people to buy American is if it's a quality product, and not all American products are quality. We've got our own defective stuff too. It's not a perfect system everywhere. But most things are quality products because they have certain standards that states and the government require them built to. So if you have an American product and you're trying to push that product, one example is you need to go the actual cost. And the actual cost is the life cycle cost. So more to the IT point, when I was in Liberia, I had a friend who was excited because the first ever dual SIM card mobile showed up in Liberia. This was 2007. Very excited, or early 2008, maybe it was that. Anyway, and my friend said, yeah, I'm going to go buy this. And the Lebanese guy said, yeah, here you go. And it was not that expensive. And I said, don't buy that. Why? I said, well, I've never heard of that brand. Let me see it. Turned it over, handset made in China. I said, look at this. It's flimsy. I guarantee you within a month, the buttons are going to fall off, the battery will stop working, the screen will go dead. Guess what? Within a month, the buttons fell off the screen, it went dead, and the battery was flat, and it didn't work again. So it was nice that they were the first ones to come up with a dual SIM card phone, but how about sending a quality product that's durable? And that's a key part of this. The thing with the Japanese had nothing to do with durability and quality. By that stage in the 80s, the Japanese had top quality cars, and they were durable and they were less expensive. But that's because of the ossified structure that we had in the U.S. automotive industry here in the U.S., in which unions and incompetent executives of major motor vehicle corporations had destroyed innovation and had created a system that created so many benefits without any return. And so they were unprofitable in many respects or limping along because of their heavy capital and their heavy burden of overhead cost. So that was what the Reagan administration was trying to do, is limit the number of Japanese cars come in. It was anti-market. It was anti-market. It was anti-competitive. And as a young man, I didn't know better, but I would not support that sort of thing. If you can't make it, then you shouldn't punish others for making it. The consumers are the one who pays. Let me give you one more example, and then I'll let you get back to you here. The United States, we pay 3 times the world price for sugar. When I live in Africa, I get a kick out of the fact I can walk in a restaurant and people spill sugar and nobody cares. You spill sugar here, people are like, whoa, be careful. That stuff's expensive. Because our government pays subsidies to Cuban American sugar farmers in Florida and in Louisiana, cane sugar producers, to fund them, and it pushes the price of sugar up to 3 times the world price. So we pay more for sugar in this country than anyone else in the world. Of course, we pay less for petrol than anybody except the Saudis, but that's because we don't pay tax on petrol, but we pay on sugar. My point is that it's a distortion of the marketplace. So one thing that you can focus on is to talk about the life cycle cost of something. You can't just be, well, this is a great shirt. I bought this shirt. Well, if it falls apart after 3 washings, you got to buy another shirt, right?
Yeah. See, this one was designed like the F-35 jet program. The hardware is expensive, but it's lifelong because you don't ever need to replace that lock because they'll keep updating the software. The main focus is the software, just like with the F-35 fighter jet. Yes, that was extremely expensive, but it'll last a century. So that's where the life cycle cost would, that's the selling point here, is that you've got a lock for life that will, work for many, many, many years, and it will always be up to date and modern because it just needs a software update.
Yep. No, I think that's a selling point too, durability. So I have a pair of Pioneer CS605 speakers. I'm forgetting how many watts they are. They're powerful. I could blow my windows out. I bought them on layaway from the exchange in Germany in 1985. I still have them. They work. I've taken care of them. I've treated them with well, and I've used them appropriately, and they're durable. They still work. I don't have to replace them. That was 1985. That's the kind of durability you can get with some American products. So now Pioneer's Japanese. I'm not implying it, but just trying to make a point here is you take care of something that lasts. My Toyota 4Runner I bought in 2004. It's nearly 20 years old, and it runs like a top. I've taken it to Africa. I've taken it to Europe. I've been all over North America with it. Good quality stuff. So American products, you can sell that.
Yeah. Okay. Now that is very important, and that is another point. That is something I didn't really consider on hitting on that much. Again, the main selling point is just the quality, and that it was the most advanced and still is the most advanced lock at the moment. It's got 4G interactivity.
Yep.
You never know, the Chinese might come out with their 5G lock, that kind of thing. And again, since the relationship between South Africa and China is so close, it makes it easier for imports and less duties and tariffs to be applied, free trade agreements. So there are a lot of factors to take into account. But at the same point, South Africa does have that middle ground where it does like to have, the best of both worlds with the US and China. So just need to be fully aware of, yeah.
No, absolutely. So one thing, you weren't really talking about shipping things to America because I think you're talking about buying American products to sell there. But if you're looking to sell, just for other people's edification who are listening to the stream, if you're listening to the stream, just so you know, most things from South Africa qualify for duty-free emission into the U.S. market. You don't have to pay taxes to bring them in here, unlike European countries would pay duty on different products because of the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act. Now, that's still around for a few more years. We'll see if it continues, but that's the case now. So I've got Bradley who's jumped in this stream, and I was starting to get worried because a couple people tried to come in and they joined and they never got in. And Ozzy's got his camera off because he's somewhere in a nondescript building hiding from the Thule house. So he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to show his face, and that's fine. So Bradley's on there. Bradley, can you join in the conversation? What do you got? Ozzy, you don't have to leave. You can stay if you want, but if you want to drop off, you're welcome to. But you're welcome to stay.
That's basically all I have to say for now. I look forward to also engaging with you further on LinkedIn and other platforms. But yeah, I do appreciate your analysis and your insight into this.
No, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. Sean says that we have a set of Bose 401 speakers were bought in 1984, still works, had to replace the surrounds once. Yeah, that's quality, man. And Rigel says, been trying to focus support on Taiwanese, Japanese products, but our goal is to have proudly made USA product. Big conversation, but that's the gist of it. I think it says just. I think it was saying just. And then Bradley, or Yanni was pointing out that Bradley had the sec cap on. Oh, there it is up there on the wall. I see you've got a rugby ball behind you there. Okay, you are welcome on the stream.
Two. There's the SA one and there's a practice ball there.
Okay, brilliant. What's on your mind?
Yeah, well, look at me. I'm a big boy. I'm an ex-rugby player, just for kicks.
Well, I don't know. I don't think you're quite as big as Big Daddy Liberty. I have to put you guys side by side. I think you'll lose.
Well, let's not get into that sort of a fight, eh? No, just I saw nobody else was dialing in, so I figured I'd dial in and just say good evening, sir, and congratulations for how far you've gotten and well done and everything. And figured we'd get back to the topic at hand. I mean, the post name was Ramaphosa and the fairy tale session. So
yep,
the antidote for sleep dysplasia that he may have helped with. I know he helped me get a solid hour of sleep this afternoon.
He's a cure for insomnia. That's what he is.
I mean, I know I battle with insomnia, so he definitely helped me with that. I know that once my wife woke me up, I managed to open a bottle of wine and get through that quite quickly, listening to that nonsense. It was quite a spiel. Yeah. I don't know. Just listening to that previous chat with the technology and everything with cell phones. Chris, I don't know if you're aware about the 2 cell phone companies that are manufacturing cell phones here in South Africa now. The Libra brand, which is officially made they started up in a township, and Mara, which has actually got Oom Squirrel's signature on it.
No, I knew about Libra, but I was unfamiliar with Mara. I didn't know about that one. So yeah. And I have not seen these handsets. I'd like to check them out the next time I'm in South Africa and see what they look like. And see what kind of quality they are. Should be interesting. There's no reason that South Africa can't be a leader in technology. I mean, they certainly have the human capital. They have the resources. Now, it has an inefficient work structure across the board, but you can overcome that by hiring and paying a workforce well enough and training it so it's loyal to want to stay at your company, and that way you don't have turnover. You can make that difference. But yeah, it would be interesting to learn more about those handsets.
Absolutely. The Libra brand, I mean, I work in the IT industry, and having a look into it, the Libra brand in specific, for the price that you pay for them, they look like a decent quality spec for the price that you're going to get. So it's a worthwhile look into it. I haven't played with them myself, so I'm not going to give too much credence to it just yet.
Yeah. No, the Right Reverend Rawhide is saying no barber's open yet. No, my barber is open, but I've been busy trying to get Zoom to work and deal with gremlins who've been sneaking into the stream. And of course, I've been busy dealing with a few trolls that have been popping on the stream. So Nigel popped in there next. Hey, Nigel, do you want to jump in the conversation about Cyril, or did you want to talk about something else?
No, I just wanted to discuss the local products and the Chinese products and the international products. There was a stage where we could buy South African-made clothes quite regularly and quite openly in all the shops. And at the moment, it seems to be a bit of a scarcity. But I have noticed that when the Chinese products come in, it's just absolute rubbish. You wear it once and it falls to pieces, Yeah. But there is, I think, an awareness and a growth amongst South Africans in which they would rather buy South African products, even though they pay a bit more of a price. And I'm one of them, especially when it comes to clothes, because I'm sick and tired of buying clothes And within a week, I've got to throw the damn stuff away, or put it in the washing machine, and there's nothing in the washing machine. It's all down the drain, you know.
Yeah.
Buy and wash and throw it away.
Yeah, yeah. So
those are called single-use clothing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There was a period where you could buy Levi's or Levi's or whatever you call them, Levi's. I don't know if you can still get them, but they're horribly expensive. But of course, that's our exchange rate. You know, it's shot, it's finished, it's absolute rubbish at the moment. And the other thing that I like to purchase when I can afford it is these things. You know, but I can't afford an American brand, so I have to buy a Japanese brand or make up my own. You know, so. Yeah, what can you do? You know, we just have to live with what we've got and do what we can. Eh?
Well, what you can do is you can get rid of the African National Congress by getting those 8 to 10 million people to go to the polls and vote against them, because that's the source of this. There's two things when it comes to clothing industry in South Africa that come to play here. First is that there was an artificial advantage that was given to African producers from the 1990s or 80s until about 2005. And it was under something called the Multi-Fiber Agreement, under the General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs, or GATT, which became the World Trade Organization. So the Multi-Fiber Agreement, what it did is it allowed countries like China and Taiwan and Asian producers like Vietnam to skirt the rules on quotas, because there were quotas under GATT. So you couldn't flood marketplaces. So for instance, you couldn't just ship, let me just pick a figure, 1 million pairs of socks from China to the United States each year. You were limited to 500,000 or something like that. But one way around that under this, and this was done so that people would put money into developing countries, is that if you took the material, the cotton or the wool or whatever it was, synthetic, and you brought it from one location to a third-party country or a second country to produce it and then ship it into the Western markets, you could get around that by and it was legal. People accepted it. Wasn't a scam. It was legal. So as a consequence, Southern Africa had a pretty significant textile industry. South Africa had always had a decent textile industry, but Lesotho developed one. Swaziland developed one. Mozambique had a small but nascent one, and there was a little bit in Botswana and Namibia as well. But what happened was when the multi-fiber agreement expired, overnight, a couple 100,000 jobs in textiles disappeared in Southern Africa because the Taiwanese and Chinese companies relocated their manufacturing almost overnight. They shuttered, they put padlocks on the factories, and they moved back to Asia because the workforce in South Africa, I'm sorry, no insult South Africans, but the workforce, the efficiency is low and the cost of labor is actually high. People think, well, you pay people nothing for salary. But that's not the true cost of labor. You have to put in absenteeism. You know, when somebody in the family dies from HIV or AIDS and you're gone for a week for a funeral, that kills and eviscerates productivity. And they don't think about that. When you have to hire dozens of security guards because people rob you blind and your property isn't safe on your factory site, that's part of the cost. When you've got corruption taking place, all these things. So that's the true cost of the production. So all these jobs were lost. And that's the first thing. Back to the ANC. The ANC's happy with this. They have no objections to it. They're creating these duty-free industrial zones for only Chinese companies on South African soil. What the hell is that all about? That doesn't bring jobs to South Africans. That doesn't help South Africa's economy. It offshores it. So you're absolutely right. I have a closet full of Woolies dress shirts that are all made in South Africa. And I was going to get rid of them, but I'm going to hang on to them because I may never see South African-made Woolly shirts again.
Yeah.
So we've got Tom came in. Let me get Tom in here real quick. Tom and I were talking last night. Now people get to put a face to the name. And he's got some interesting stuff hanging up the wall back there. But for those who were here last night, Tom and I were talking. He's Japanese-American, a veteran, and he's got quite a bit of military service, airborne ranger. Worked with me in Liberia, or should I say worked for me, Tom, and worked with me in Liberia. And he's an interesting person. And his parents were interned in King Franklin's relocation camps. I prefer to call them concentration camps during the Second World War, because of course that wasn't racist. That, you know, just taking people because they're Japanese Americans or Americans of Japanese descent and sticking them in relocation camps wasn't at all discriminatory or racist, because of course the Supreme Court upheld that idiocy. Anyway, Tom, welcome to the conversation.
Hello, sir. Calling from Fort Campbell, beautiful Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Pouring rain. Looks like it's night out here. Connections here aren't too good. Power may go off any minute, so I cut off.
Okay.
You're an insane, mate.
Well, you got to remember that he was actually in Africa, so he's accustomed to not having electricity.
If it ain't raining, it ain't training, sir.
Well, there you go. So, Tom, what do you want to get in on here? You got something to add to the conversation, or are you just calling in to say
Well,
hey?
I just kind of got in late. But what was I going to say about, there was something about relocation. My dad stayed in relocation camp. His brother went to the Pacific Theater.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't until 1944 that my dad found out he couldn't vote. The voting laws were so convoluted that if he wanted to vote by mail, it sounded like he didn't exist. So fortunately, by 1944, people figured it out. And we were winning the war. So my dad got an early release from camp. Had to leave my mother in camp because prior to World War II, my mom, who was born here, was sent to Japan for girls' school, high school. So she was blacklisted. And so he left camp, stuck his head out of the fighting position, looked back to California, where he's from, and said, oh, no, this doesn't look good, and ended on the East Coast. And found a job in 1944 that he stayed with until 1987, and went from technician to senior project engineer on a radio engineering laboratory incorporated. So.
Cool. And then you went in uniform. You served in the military.
Well, I tried school for a little bit. I was having no fun there, so I joined as a private, and then the Army. Well, I guess I had to go to night school once in a while there, but I got my bachelor's and my master's while I was in the Army. I was supposed to be a foreign area officer, and then when we were victorious in the desert, all bets were off. So that went down the tube. But I got a master's in international relations anyway. And then I was a major for about 15 minutes. And then they rifted me. So I fought to stay in the Army, and I reverted to Staff Sergeant, E6.
Oh, wow.
And spent my last 3 years as an E6 11 Bravo.
So for the rest of the audience, no one's going to know what that acronym except me means. So I'm going to help them out, Tom. RIFT is short for reduction in force. It's the government's way of saying SEC.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for your time, SEC.
Pink slip.
Yeah, so it's a pink slip. That's right. Yeah. So sadly that's something that happened to a lot of our officers after Vietnam. That happened a lot, and people were the Army reduced its size tremendously because it no longer had such a large force in Southeast Asia, and so they riffed a lot of officers. When I was in ROTC, Reserve Officer Training Corps at university, I remember that we had a dining in, and this gentleman who was an instructor, he was a major, or he's an NCO. Excuse me, he's an NCO, and he came to the dining in, and he was wearing his major's uniform, and I'm like, huh? What's that all about? Because he had his retirement ceremony, and then he had the event was actually after he retired. It was like the next week, and so he came to it, and I missed the retirement ceremony, but he's wearing major rank. I'm like, but you're a sergeant first class. What is this major stuff? And he had been a helicopter pilot in Vietnam and loved the Army so much they wouldn't let him stay in as a captain. So he was reduced back to being a staff sergeant, and then or a sergeant, I think maybe a staff sergeant, and he wound up retiring as a sergeant first class with over 20 years of service. And he retired at the highest rank ever. He wasn't a captain; he was a major. I'm sorry. So he went back to being a major. That's what it was. Went back from a major to a staff sergeant. Really crazy system, and it's not right. Can you imagine being a leader in charge of a lot of people one day, and then the next day you're a sergeant? Nothing wrong with being a sergeant. I was a sergeant. Tom was a sergeant. Nothing wrong with that at all. But that's quite a change, and you know you got to have a lot of humility and a lot of ability to follow and be part of a team, not to take that big hit and just step away from the stage. Got to be a tough thing, eh, Tom?
Yeah, I guess. I fought I was in Europe at the time, so it was tough trying to get back to the States. I eventually came back to Fort Campbell, and in Army Logic, they said they assigned me to the NCO Academy as an instructor, without having spent a millisecond in an NCO Academy as a student. But anyway, my first job there was as PLDC, Primary Leadership Development Course instructor, and there was another E6 there as an instructor who outranked me, of course, by date of rank, and he had been a specialist when I was his company commander in Germany in a combat engineer company. He made sergeant when I was his company commander. So now, not that he was pushing me around or anything, but he was trying to figure it all out. He thought, yeah. He said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Yeah, I got drifted." And he goes, "No, you're a secret squirrel. You're criminal investigation division. You're investigating."
Thought you were a plant.
Yeah, they did.
Was somebody trying to jump in there a moment ago? Was it Nigel?
Yeah. What's their ideology about deranking an officer to an NCO? What's the purpose?
It was simply because the force didn't have enough officers. They reduced the size of the active force by about 40%. So there weren't positions for so many officers. And a lot of people who had served in multiple combat tours obviously wanted to stay till retirement. And so not everybody could be accommodated. So you were given the opportunity to leave the service, gee, thank you, or you could stay, but you'd have to go to a lower rank where there was actually positions available. And there were, of course, there's always more junior enlisted and mid-grade NCO positions than there are officer positions because the structure's a pyramid. And so it's not an ideology. It was just a practicality of the post-Vietnam. And that was one of the big concerns with the drawdown at the end of the Cold War in the early 1990s. A lot of officers were terrified that we were going to go through the same thing that our peers had gone through, or our predecessors had gone through 20 years prior. So fortunately for those of us, it happened, but not quite as dramatic or draconian. I don't know of anybody that went back. We didn't do this reduction of force thing. We did have voluntary separation packages, and we did ask people to leave early and encourage people to leave, but we didn't really go back. And it didn't affect me other than that I went through a year group in which 38% of my year group was cut. They didn't get promoted to major. 38% of my year group did not make major, which is heavy. So think about that. In the scheme of things, ostensibly you have a bunch of talented people, right? And if you have, especially in an elite organization like the military, so if you have 100 officers, one would expect that probably 90 to 90, over 90 of them are talented, capable leaders. Otherwise, they would have been relieved, right, and sent packing. It's not like we have to hang on to dead wood in the military. But when you have a promotion and only 62% of the officers get promoted, that means a lot of talented people aren't getting promoted. They're being sent. And if you don't get promoted, you have to leave the service. So when I got promoted to major, 32% of that year group became civilians. They left. And of course, that's long before they're eligible to retire.
My year group, I was a combat engineer. And so my year group, the selection was 40%.
Ooh, that's
worse
than mine. Yep.
It was brutal. And then I thought that since I got selected, I said, oh yeah, I'd be bad. I'm good. And then my pink slip came down and they weren't offering me anything. So I was at 17 years of service and I said, oh, I got to fight for something here. So I fought to stay in, and they originally wanted to make me a sergeant, and which in the retention control point is 17 years. So they're going to make me a sergeant and then fire me. And then so I had to fight to revert to E6. I actually requested to revert to E9, and they said, yeah, no.
Well, I think our defense force has more officers than ratings and NCOs at the present moment.
Oh yeah, no.
From what I see,
we'll definitely get into that. But I want to get to something about another event. But before I do that, I want to point something out. So people always talk about promotion rates, right? And they talk about how high they are. So the Army, my Army, loves to say that we promoted 30, 50, 80%. The higher number, great. But here's the reality. When I was commissioned in 1989 as a second lieutenant, 8,700 officers were commissioned through ROTC alone, not including the 1,000 at West Point or probably 1,200 that came out of officer candidate school that year, maybe 800. 8,700. Now, remember, this was still the Cold War. We didn't know that the Soviet Union was going to collapse. So 8,700 second lieutenants. Of those, 4,200 went on active duty. The rest went into the National Guard or the reserve component because it's a huge total force. So of 4,200 officers who went in, of course, some of them pass away over the years, not many, fortunately. And then others leave the service because they just want to do it for short term. It's not a career. But when I was promoted to full colonel, there were 168 people who made full colonel out of 4,200. And actually, that's not the full figure because you have to add West Point, that's 5,200, plus you have to add in OCS, say 800, that's 6,000. Of 6,000 people in 1989, only 168 of us made full colonel when I made full colonel. That's a pretty significant reduction in numbers. And so if you make lieutenant colonel, full colonel, even major these days, this is not boasting me, it's quite an impressive achievement in our force. It's funny because a lot of African students would ask me at the War College. I had this Tunisian, because he knew that I went to l'École d'État-Major, the Tunisian Staff College. So he pulled me aside, was it last year or the year before, and he goes, or the year before, he says, Colonel Wyatt, can I ask you a question? I said, sure. What's up, Khalifa? He says, you know so much, and you know all these things. You've done all these things. Why is it you're just a colonel? And I had to laugh. I'm like, dude, just a colonel. Do you know how hard it is to become a colonel? This isn't, and I actually said this. I said, this isn't the South African military. We don't have more generals than we have privates. Anyway. And
it was a, yeah.
Go ahead,
Nigel. It was a fault of the old Defence Force as well, where folks used to get promoted on years of service rather than on merit. And it's, of course, you had friends in high places. Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I left the Navy, because of that very problem. You know, I couldn't get anywhere because first of all, I'm English. So I was a Rooinek. I wasn't an Afrikaner, which was a bit of a problem in those days. And then if you weren't really fluent, which I wasn't, then, you know, you really didn't get promotion unless after 3 years you became something, and then 5 years later, then 10 years later. It was a bit of a problem, which I don't think it's changed much at the moment, you know.
No, it's well, there's all sorts of problems with it now. The surprising thing is there's actually some competent officers that advance in the SANDF despite the system. So every system that's designed to fail, still has, you know, some talent make it through. Now, there's actually some really talented people in the SANDF. The problem is it's not enough of them. And the problem is the system way it's set up. So you serve in the Navy. I didn't know that. What I want to say really quickly while we got folks in here, I was looking to see if anybody else was trying to call in, but looks like people are enjoying this chat, so we're good. But what I want to say is somebody mentioned in the chat, and I should mention it, that today is Canada Day. All right, for those who didn't know, right? Today is the national holiday of Canada, Canada Day, the 1st of July. And I didn't really make a big stink or mention about it because when I was in Canada for its 150th birthday a couple years ago, it was virtually impossible to find any Canadian that actually knew that it was the 150th anniversary of Canada's founding. Actually quite bizarre. 1868, I think it was, or 67, 68. It's 150th anniversary, and I'm walking around Canada trying to find T-shirts or coffee mugs or caps that have the sesquicentennial, and I couldn't find it anywhere. I actually left Canada. I went to Hamilton for the U.S. and Canada rugby World Cup qualification game in 2018, and I couldn't find anything anywhere. It said sesquicentennial, nothing at all. Finally, I drove to the border, and I saw a welcome center on the other side of the road. So I turned around and went there, and I walked in, and they actually had a few T-shirts and things, but that was it. All over, I couldn't find anything. It's like they didn't want to recognize their heritage. Canada has become a very funny place. But congratulations to the Canadians on your birthday on Canada Day. Oh, Canada.
Dis-moi, Chris, c'est pour le Québec aussi ou pour les Anglais?
Comment?
C'est pour le Québec aussi ou c'est net pour les Anglais?
Non, c'est tout le monde. Tout
le monde, alors.
Partout,
Sorry, I'm just showing off. Don't
worry. Non, c'est partout au Canada. Il y a aucun Canadien
Oh, but you're the same boat as me, mate. Like, whatever.
Bradley?
What's Bradley saying?
What?
Like, whatever, Chinese.
No, but Nigel is doing it, I think, because you know, he fessed up.
Showing off.
Well, his Afrikaans is weak, so he was showing off his French.
As julle wil miskien 'n bietjie Afrikaans praat, dan kan ons 'n bietjie gooi.
Ja, maar ek kan Bradley. Dis net 'n storie. Ek kan Afrikaans praat. Ek het 'n regte Afrikaner tannie getrou. So jy moet dit onthou.
Dis heeltemal heerlik, my broer. Dis moet hoe dit moet wees.
En sy sê vir my altyd, pas op ou man, ek klap vir jou, hè. Jy gee my kak, ek klap vir jou, weet. Nou weet jy dis Afrikaanse tannie.
Dis hoe gooi dat tannies, broer.
Yeah, anyway.
Hey Tom, I think we just sit here and smile and look confused. We'll be okay. Yeah. So anyway. Morton Christie mentioned that it's also Somme Day from 1916, the Battle of the Somme.
That's true. Yes, that's
point.
True. Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Wow, It's nice when people know a little bit of history, which apparently seems to be lost on the African National Congress and all members of elected government here in the United States, except maybe for Donald Trump.
I think they don't want to resurrect history. They would rather hide it away and keep it aside. because it shows up the errors if they do,
Well, more importantly, what I find interesting about this is that if you don't recall history, then how do you know what's right and wrong if you can't compare it to how things were done wrong in the past? It's interesting. It's one thing, like in South Africa, to rename place names like, Kaydorp, that's not really a cool name. That's, I think we can all admit that was kind of out of bounds. You shouldn't name a town
Sure,
name.
sure.
But renaming Pretoria to Tshwana for a mythical, Tshwana chief who may or may not have existed in a place where there was no permanent settlement before Trek Boers arrived and was founded by Trek Boers and is overwhelmingly an Afrikaans-speaking city, to rename it Tshwana is just a slap in the face. I mean, it's not like it's deep in the heart of Zululand and KZN, or it's deep in the heart of Venda territory or Tswana territory. It was a place founded by Trek Boers. So renaming it to me is just insulting, and I think that was the intent.
I agree with you. I do believe that was the intent, to irritate us, irritate the crap out of us.
Well, it's working. Irritating people.
Well, they did the same with the Belgium Congo. They renamed Elizabethville and what was the other place, Leopoldville, to something else. So
Kinshasa.
But that's fine. Kinshasa, that's fine.
No, that's quite different. And even in Zimbabwe, one can make the argument. Salisbury becomes Harare, and Fort was Fort Victoria or something like that, which became
Victoria.
Yeah, became
Victoria.
Masvingo, I think it is. Yeah, some of that's okay. Some of that's okay and understandable, but in South Africa, some of the names make sense. Look, I think most people are pretty cool calling it Gauteng, place of gold. That makes sense. People get that. That's pretty cool. But just simply renaming some places is kind of crazy. So I saw that they were trying to. They've renamed Nelspruit now. I think I don't even know what the name is. It's confusing.
I don't know what is Nelspruit now. I don't know. In Mpumalanga, up in Mpumalanga.
Yeah, in Mpumalanga, but I don't know what the name of the town is. Yeah. All right. So let's ask this question. So Tom's taking care of business over there. So Bradley, Nigel, rugby fans, and if so, who do you support? I know you probably said in the chat, but seeing faces now I can lock in and make sure I know who's a Sharks fan. So we don't let you call in anymore.
I'm a KwaZulu-Natal boy. I'm Sharks to the bone.
I see. I knew it. There was always one in the crowd.
There's no doubt.
Yeah, I'm just teasing you, Bradley. Sharks are fine. Nigel, what about you?
I'm not sport-minded at all.
Oh, okay.
Not at all.
All right.
My wife is, and every time there's a match or something happens, she runs into the bench, says, high five, we've made another goal. And then she runs out to carry on watching the game. So.
And you're probably like, what did that nutter want? No, don't tell her I said that.
Chris just looked it up. Nelspruit is now known as Mbombela.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, that's what it is. I can only pronounce it when I'm half pissed, because I need to slow down the talking. It's a tough one.
Is it that horrible, Coke and coffee? What you drink, Coke and something? What was it?
Oh,
that big spiel we had.
Oh, here we go. Okay, Nigel's banned from the Zoom.
The
Marmite Bovril saga.
I think the worst drink that's come out of South Africa is the Katemba, which is the Coke and wine.
Oh, yeah.
The Coke and wine, Katemba.
We've got a lot of Shark supporters here. Rudy Roos is a Shark supporter, and then Robert Zade says Sharks, and then the Right Reverend Rawhide grew up in Nelspruit. Okay, there you go. And then Yanni mentioned that Formula One is restarting this weekend for those of you into racing.
Yes.
There you go.
That's interesting.
Yeah, speaking of things like Cyril Ramaphosa that induced narcolepsy or end narcolepsy, I think that, Bradley, I'll be able to sleep. I just put on Formula One this weekend.
Oh, well, that's your problem, mate.
You can't make me laugh like that. I'm going to damage my microphone. It's already had enough problems.
Have any of you all heard of Bovril and Sherry?
Bovril and Sherry?
Yeah. I was on a NATO staff. Actually, it was out of the Netherlands. And every time I had to go to 1st British Corps headquarters in northern Germany there, they always said, hey, you're a visitor. You have to drink this stuff. I'm not a drinker, but Bovril and Sherry.
Tom, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What's your interest in South Africa?
Wait a second. This is my
Chris and Tom are...
This is my show. What is this cock?
I'm
No,
sorry.
no,
There you go.
I'm still, no,
I'm
hang
just
on.
kidding.
I'm still dealing with Bovril and Sherry, Jono.
No, Nigel.
Bovril goes on toast.
Hang on,
Sherry is a drink.
Bradley, we'll get back to that. Hang on, but you've got a bottle of wine, so you'll be okay for the moment. Nigel, I'm just having a crack. Good
That's
question.
fine.
Good question, Tom. Go ahead and answer. Go ahead and answer. Now that I've got control of the stream again, you can answer his question.
Sir, yes, sir. Permission to speak.
Carry on.
Ooh. Well, I was in West Africa for a while, and I've always wanted to visit South Africa, but never got around to it. And then this popped up. Chris's shows popped up, and now I'm learning firsthand from those
Oh,
of
good.
you.
Oh, good.
But Tom
And so-
actually started watching the channel because we were in Liberia together, and my first Saturday live stream was about security sector reform in Liberia, of which he was a part. And Jeff Rodriguez, the program manager from DynCorp, the contractor who worked for me, was there. And so Tom tuned in for that, and he watched it, and he subscribed to the channel. He's been with me ever since. And I don't think he realized he was going to get the whole of Africa opened up to him. So it's worked out pretty well. He got a good deal.
I did.
Welcome.
When I watch, now I'm back to work full time, so I've got to sneak stuff in sometimes.
No, well, it's nice to know that there are other people around the continent that do tune in and have a more balanced view of what's going on here, rather than the rhetoric that goes on all the time. And it's good, because I think the only way you're going to get the message out there is on a one-to-one basis. Or on a small crowd basis, because we don't have independent newspapers, or even in your country and in the States, you don't have independent newspapers. They're all in cahoots with each other. So independent stuff like what you guys are doing, I think helps us tremendously.
Well, it certainly opens up a lot of eyes. A lot of people aren't aware of it. Speaking of that, in the chat, there was a question from the Right Reverend Rawhide a bit ago, and he asked this question. He asked about thoughts on private military contractors in Africa. So first off, let me point out that Tom actually was a private military contractor in Africa, and so let me preface what I'm going to say based on that, and then I'll ask Bradley and Nigel and Tom their thoughts on it. So here's the deal from my perspective. When I was in Liberia, there was a lot of consternation about the fact that DynCorp and PA, two American companies, were the ones that were leading the training and reconstruction of the bases in Liberia. So I was interviewed by Voice of America and then Radio France and News 24 and some others. And they said, what are your thoughts on this? I said, well, I don't really care. And they looked at me aghast. What do you mean you don't care? I said, no, I don't care. I said, it isn't a question whether it's a private military contractor. It's a question of whether they're competent and capable of delivering the services that are necessary. The burden for this falls on whoever's responsible for the program. And in that case, it was me and the U.S. government. It was our obligation to ensure that we were getting what we were paying for. And if the contractors weren't delivering, then it was on us to fix that. And I did have a few problems with a few contractors, individuals, not companies specifically. And we resolved those problems pretty quickly. But my point is that it depends on the task. People always take private military contractors and they think of executive outcomes. They think of the Wanga coup. They think of overthrowing governments. Yeah, okay, maybe that's what some private security firms use for it. But private military contractors are perfectly capable. We've relied on them for decades. In fact, in the first Gulf War, we couldn't have flown our Apache helicopters without private military contractors because we had no mechanics to repair the helicopters. They were all, because Apache was relatively new and almost everyone qualified to repair them was actually out of uniform. They were civilians.
And from DynCorp.
And from DynCorp. Well, I wasn't going to shill for DynCorp, but you brought it up. But yeah. But the point is that my perspective on this is that private military contractors depends on the task. I don't think it's appropriate to hire a private military company to overthrow your government. I don't think it's appropriate to hire a private military government to be in lieu of your government. That's not appropriate. But it's perfectly okay to use a private military corporation to supplement legitimate military activities and or support and services, intelligence, stuff like that. So, Tom, I'm going to let you get in here last here. Bradley, have you ever thought about this? You know anything about it, or is it at least a bit curious for you?
I do. I mean, I know people that have been employed in those circumstances and out of South Africa's borders. They've been used in international circumstances, and I'm all for it. If the warrant for it is required and the task that's needed, as you've said, is required, and everything's got an end point. that everything's got, that they've got the goals that they've set out to portray, then absolutely, there's checks and balances that are put in place, and absolutely, go for it. I'm not against it at all.
No, that's quite reasonable. So, Nigel, what are your thoughts on this? You served in the Navy, so you should have a perspective on this.
Well, I historically, there's always been private contractors, quote unquote. It goes right back to the historical days, long before we were around, and in the biblical times even. So I'm not against it. But the other issue is the moral issue, and whose side are you on? Basically, that's it. I'm not against it. Yep. But most of the contractors are not really frontline. They're mostly guard duties, escorts, that sort of stuff. If you're a mercenary, then it's questionable. What are you doing it for? Whose side are you on? Because a lot of the times it's just purely for the money because they get paid quite well.
Well,
but I'm not against it.
Before I get to Tom, let me put some background here too for those who may or may not know, tuning in from around the world. About 16 years ago, the ANC government was trying to pass legislation that made it a crime to work for private military corporations, and they were doing this because of Iraq, and they were angry that tens of thousands of former SADF troops and other South Africans were going to Iraq and making a buttload of money and shipping it back home. They were too stupid to realize it was enhancing South Africa's economy, but they didn't care about that.
Oh, Rickies.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing: they didn't like it. I think they feared that these people could be a third force coming back at some point. That's part of it. But they wrote a anti-mercenary law that was so poorly written that if you volunteered to work for the International Committee of the Red Cross, you could be classified as a mercenary under the anti-mercenary law and prosecuted by the South African government at their leisure. And if you had served or supported a liberation movement, which would have been a criminal organization under existing governments, for instance, Mkhonto we Sizwe and the armed resistance groups, if you had supported them, then there's no charges. You can go support a liberation movement to overthrow a government, but you cannot be a private military contractor. That was absolutely outrageous. I covered that when I worked in the intelligence community about 16 years ago, and it was just, I guess it should have been a sign of where we were going to head in South Africa with the lunacy of its legislation and the laws that they passed. All right, Tom, I suspect you're going to be adamantly opposed to the concept of private military contractors. Yes?
No. Well, when I retired, I couldn't get a government job because they said you had to be out of the Army for, I think it was 18 months or something. So I couldn't find a job. And then my first job actually was with Vinel in Saudi Arabia. And I helped train this Royal Saudi Army. And again, there were Royal Saudi soldiers there that had been in their army forever. And I had put some of them through jump school when I was a sergeant in the 70s. And so I finished that job, and then what did I do? I came home, worked in Tooele, Utah, cleaning up some nasty war chemicals there. And Willis Plummer, do you remember Willis Plummer?
I know Will Plummer.
Yeah, Will Plummer, I served with him in the 101st. And he got that job with DynCorp. And then he calls me and he says, hey, there's a training job out here and I need your help, And so I became chief of training there. And originally we were hiring folks with Army backgrounds. But again, when your predecessors was Navy. So he says, no, we got to go with Marine backgrounds. And they started to mix, and they didn't mix well, oil and water. And that's where some of the trouble started. But a lot of those folks they were hiring that had been in the Army, I had served with somewhere along the line. So it was a good team originally.
Yeah, I know it's interesting that people don't appreciate that. So, of course, you've got, say you hire people from even the same country, but they come from different services, different branches of the service. For instance, the Marines do drill and ceremony differently than we do in the Army. So, in fact, we discovered a problem by having a mixture of Marine drill sergeants and Army drill sergeants in Liberia. in that one would go out and train the recruits on how to do facing movements and marching, and then the next day the Army guy would be there and he would tell them something different, and they'd all be confused because they do it different. So we had to figure out very quickly that it standardizes things. The good news for us is that the government of Liberia wanted U.S. Army standards, and so we settled on that because that was their request. And that made it a lot simpler. But we had to make sure the Marines knew how to march properly, so we fixed them.
Okay.
And, I had gone to the Marine Officer Advanced course, actually my second advanced course. So when when DynCorp found out about that, they said, "Oh yeah, you can solve this problem." And I said, "No, I can't solve it. Marines march differently. Marines do things differently," and they just didn't know how to handle that. And then there was a coup, and then I went from being chief of training to slum landlord of Barclay Training Center. Facilities manager.
being an ex-Navy guy, I must say that I prefer the Navy way of doing things, because we don't like to show our dirty hands, and we like to stop immediately.
Well, I see you guys were taking Cyril Ramaphosa's advice long before he ever offered it about washing your hands frequently, so that's good to know. But I'm just looking over the chat back here, and let's see, a little bit ago, Tony was laughing, and he's drinking a couple beers there, and Yanni says, "What is this cock?" And then Hendo says, "This Zoom is out of control. Who is drunk in the Zoom?" And then somebody, and was it Variable Vision says, "What's this? I'm popping out for 5 minutes, and all of a sudden it's the Brady Bunch." Well, we need 2 more people to call in to make it the Brady Bunch. Then we'll have 6 people, 3 on top and 3 on the bottom.
Chris,
or no, 9. That's
Chris,
what it is.
can I just point out?
Yes.
It's cock.
Yeah.
Cock.
Yes. Cock.
Not cough.
Cock.
Cock.
That's what I said.
There
Cock.
we go. No, you said cock.
That's it. Yeah.
You said cock. It's cock. So K-U-K. Cock.
It's not spelled K-U-K. What do you think? You're French? Misspelling words?
It's spelled K-A-K, but with Afrikaans verbaling, it's cock.
Is that because Simon van der Stel gave you guys too much wine in the early days in the Cape? What's the deal here?
I don't know who the fuck that is, but it said cock.
I don't know who that is. Oh my gosh. That's too funny. Anyway, product of ANC public schooling, no less. Anyway.
Well, maybe. I don't know.
Well, it's kind of like Bucky. People keep telling me it's Bucky. It's Bucky.
That's Bucky.
Yeah.
Bucky.
Okay.
Bucky.
This is why the French drive me nuts. I speak French, but they use letters and don't pronounce them. What's the point of wasting space? Don't use the letter if you're not going to pronounce it. You guys are using a letter, but you're pronouncing a different fashion. That's not right. It's confusing.
Like your G's and your R's.
Yes.
Bro.
Yeah.
Yes.
Look at him dropping his head in shame. That's my shame, not his. He's shaking his head.
So when you say ghost, how do you say Ronaldo's surname?
No, I never say ghost. I've never said ghost. I say hos.
Yeah, Ghost.
Ghost.
It's a tickle in the back of the throat.
No. It's a visit to the clinic because you've got an ailment. Hos.
No, I'm healthy as a freaking horse, mate.
Anyway, it's funny. People are joking. They're saying, "What is this cock?" But the crowd's holding steady, so they must be enjoying the cock.
Cuck.
You know what? I tell you what I did find interesting, because I tuned on to Mr. Ramaphosa's speech.
Yes.
And you know how many people were online?
2,200.
190 people.
Are you serious? I wish I'd seen it. I wish I'd seen that for screen capture so I could have captured that. That is.
There weren't many.
That is pathetic.
That's very little.
So
you're
telling me that my streams with Big Daddy Liberty double and almost triple Cyril Ramaphosa's audience. That's sad.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to put
What I also found very interesting was one of the very first questions that he was posed was about the cigarette ban.
Yeah.
The very, very first question was about the cigarette ban, and he sideswiped it.
Of course.
Yeah, he skipped it.
Completely sideswiped it.
Yeah.
And it makes absolutely no sense to me. I mean, with all the current tests and everything that's being done around the world with how nicotine is helping people that are habitual smokers, that don't get this codif virus and don't get it as badly. And we're still in this complete state of lockdown as far as buying cigarettes and tobacco products. It makes absolutely no sense.
No, it doesn't. Now people are messing with me here in the chat. Doc Breaker's trying to get me to say, I'll say it in English and then I'll try in Afrikaans. Hiri baki vati kaki. Heri boki vaki cookie. That's just cruel. Anyway. Yeah, okay. So Henrikus van der Rijst. That's a new name. I haven't seen that before. Welcome aboard. Yeah, 190 people. Yeah, I doubled that. So I'm going to put that on my CV. I had twice the audience of Cyril Ramaphosa for my stream.
Well, I must be honest, is when I tuned on, there was only 190. And I was actually I thought there'd be something like 4,000 or 6,000 or whatever.
Well, you heard my
190.
guess. You heard my guess, 2,200. I thought that was reasonable. Huh.
Yeah. So, it's crazy.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Nigel.
No, I'm finished.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so hey, folks, tomorrow, just as a reminder, we are going to do a stream on here, and I'm debating about how I'm going to do this. Probably I might do maybe one or two people at the same time as me so that I can control a little bit. But tomorrow, I'm going to do the land and poverty discussion. We got the Zoom working. It's going to be a Zoom session. People will be able to come in, and we're going to talk about land and poverty in South Africa. And hopefully people have read my article. And don't worry, I don't get any money for people going to that site and reading it, trust me. And it doesn't stroke my ego much. I just think it's a useful article to understand the topic because land is far more complicated than the ANC and the EF would like to make it be. And it's very disingenuous arguments about land tenure and things like that. So we'll talk about that tomorrow, maybe make some comparisons to Zimbabwe and Namibia. But I don't know, are any of you guys going to tune in for that tomorrow, do you think, to watch the land thing or be part of it?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool.
Absolutely.
What is this? Tony says, "Oh wait."
Just as an extra,
yeah.
I do have to say that today I found out that from PE there's a wonderful small business owner that is able to buy agricultural products that can eventually dry out sufficiently to become tobacco leaves, and once they've dried out sufficiently and become tobacco leaves, they can be crushed and be pushed into cigarette tubes. And you can buy all these products from this one person. And it throws, I know it's completely off all the topics, but it throws all this NDZ stuff out and Cyril Ramaphosa's old worm squirrel stuff out the window.
Yeah. Because
in the form that this small business owner is currently selling it, it's still agricultural. And I was very happy to find out about all of it. Just thought I'd throw it out.
No, I get the facetiousness there. It makes sense. But yeah, no, but I've been saying this from the very beginning. If you guys have been watching this, that this makes no sense whatsoever. And I'm not a smoker. I really detest cigarettes. Don't care for them all. I actually can, those of you who serve in uniform know what I'm talking about. I can smell a cigarette from 100 meters away. People are like, no, you can't. Yes, you can. And actually, it interferes with my breathing, causes me issues. So that's not why I hate it. I just hate it because of the smell. It's nasty, But I don't begrudge people to smoke. People smoke reasonably and respectfully. I get no problem with that. And I have nothing against investing in tobacco business. People want to do that's fine. It's their right. I'm not a libertarian, but I certainly believe in liberty. And I think that this is utter nonsense, and it's an attempt to shape South African culture in a fashion that for some reason they want to shape it in, and I don't get it. It's like the nonsense with Bekele and his horse crap about alcohol and his teetotaling, and he wants to stop all alcohol. And now you see this, spreading throughout the ANC's senior leadership. Today, Ramaphosa is talking about the evils of alcohol. Really? No one's ever heard about this before in 8,000 years of human beings sucking down alcohol, around the world. We just discovering this? Come on, give me a break.
Yeah, absolutely. It's there's definitely some hidden agenda. We can speculate on it, but I think eventually it'll all come out. What it was all about. But one good thing one thing that we did learn as South Africans under the old regime, if you want to put it that way,
yes,
is the old saying, "A boer maak 'n plan." We found ways and means of doing things because of the sanctions And even with this lockdown, people are finding extraordinary new ideas and entrepreneurial ideas in which to do business. And I think it's a good thing.
So Anthony just, well, I was going to agree with you there, but let me do this housekeeping. Anthony just gave a super chat of 35 Rand, says the best live stream ever. Thanks, Chris. 2 thumbs up. Okay, well, I'm going to stop doing research, and I'm just going to get half pissed and just invite people off the street into my stream if people love it. So go ahead, start. What is it? Hoying, throwing those super, hoy those super chats out there. Hoy those super chats. Go for it.
You've got it.
Go for it. Yeah, I think I damaged my throat. Anyway.
No, you'll get used to it.
I'll get used to it. Yeah, over a braai and some beer. No, but seriously, folks, it's so this was the thing was really good last night I enjoyed. So, I was testing this to see if I could get Zoom to work last night, and what I did was I tried to get everybody in, and of course it didn't work, and all we could do was hear everybody. But we had 8 people in the stream, and I asked people question after question. I really thoroughly enjoyed last night's after midnight, late night, much better.
Sorry, Chris, it looks like Yanni's in the lobby saying knock, knock, lobby.
Oh, thank you. How can you see that? I hid that. Oh, okay.
I'm watching the live chats.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
I've got 3 screens in front of me.
Oh, well, wow, multitasking. There's Yanni. Oh, he's got the second. Your mic is mute there, buddy. Tap it. Tap your mic.
Yanni, unmute.
Unmute that.
There you go.
Thanks. So, Chris, I thought I would use your set for tonight's video.
Oh, look at this. That's why it's backwards. I was wondering why you're mirroring.
Yanni,
you're mirroring. So
you've got the buff on. My cap is over there.
Yeah, I've got caps, buffs, whatever. Are you seeing me wrong way around, Chris? You are seeing me wrong way around.
I'm seeing you wrong way around, yeah.
So that's weird because on my view, you're fine.
Your pilfering of my stream has come up short, we've discovered.
The map is the wrong way.
This is weird. So why did that all of a sudden happen? I can fix that. One click.
There's a switch somewhere.
No, the map. It was right. It was right the first time. I'm just having fun.
See,
somebody calls us bunch of old guys. Can you believe it? Hey, look at this. The brew, bunch of old guys.
Oh, the brew.
Brew.
The brew.
I've only just
The
been
brew.
40, Chana, like last month. Brew.
Is the brew
Give me a
here?
break.
Is the brew
Yeah.
here? Variable Vision says interesting panel of guests. Oh, there you go.
yeah,
Knock,
so
knock,
it was
okay.
right.
I can assure you, Brew,
wrong way
my
Bunch of old guys.
I
Listen.
was going to say, Brew, I can assure you my flatulations are rich in flavor.
Okay,
All right,
Nigel, keep it to yourself, Chana.
This
You
is
don't need to know
definitely,
it.
this is taking the wrong turn. Oh, now what I see, what Yanni's done is he's put me behind him there, so he's shifted over. Oh my God.
There we go. Chris.
Okay. See, this is a problem. This is a problem with doing streams with IT professionals. They're dangerous. They're like
the joys of a green screen.
they're like 12-year-old kids. They know too much and they're dangerous.
Okay, but Yanni, you're running a proper green screen, aren't you?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I do.
I think
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, yeah.
I'm not. That's my actual background.
Yeah, it's a good
Well,
background.
Bradley, be careful. Yanni will steal it.
Yes, I wanted to do this with Ronaldo when he had a stream. I want to take a background of him and use that as his background. But yeah, you were first.
You should.
I thought it would look pretty cool. Because at first you wouldn't realize it, and then it looks funny because you see your background. But yeah.
Exactly.
Anyway, I
No,
thought
it's
I wanted
good.
to see what 5 people looks like in Zoom. Hey guys, and
Hi.
I believe Zoom can do 49. You can go 7x7.
That's correct.
So it will get pretty busy, I think, if you have a 7x7. So I mean,
I think the biggest problem with 7x7 is how many people are going to talk at the same time.
well, that yes, and what's happening with all the video. I think there's probably going to be some clever algorithm that doesn't actively show all the frames, because 7x7 at 30 frames a second at least, that's going to jar out of bandwidth. I don't know how Zoom
And
will
be a lot of
do that.
buffering.
Yeah.
Whoever's
Yeah.
the mediator of the Zoom mutes
That will be
everybody except
insane.
for the guy that's speaking.
That will
That's
just
how
be
they do it all the-
insane.
That's how they do it for everybody that's on there. I frequently go on Zooms lately with 5 across and 5 down.
Okay, wow, that's insane.
Yeah,
And-
Tom,
and-
that's for people who know what they're doing with a Zoom meeting.
Yeah,
Well,
it won't happen.
I should just make it clear that in Beijing we simply don't allow you to use this dangerous software.
But I mean, I think Chris, we've done 5 videos at once. That's a record for your channel. We need to bump it now to 10.
Anybody want to call in? Anybody?
Do we have 6? Do we have 7?
Bueller. Bueller.
I love that movie. So I mean, Chris, back to the topic. I missed the first little part of Zuma's. I don't know what it was actually tonight. What was that? Was that like a comfort call to the South Africans or something? What did we try and achieve there? Because I couldn't really get that was being said the whole time. What was this?
What pissed me off was that first monologue of his before the appropriated time for people to start asking him questions. You took what, 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Of monologuing. What the hell was that? And he brought in the gender-based violence and alcohol and all this crap.
Yeah. Things that's not relevant.
No,
I'm not saying. Sorry, Governor.
No, it is relevant, but what you have to understand is it's relevant to the cloistered ANC elites who think that this is getting them traction with the common man. And they think just because they can babble on up there and people simply listen to them, those days are ending. They've screwed the pooch here. They really have. And this is not resonating with black South Africans at all. I mean, there's 11 million people smoking in South Africa are not just white.
The common man, the whole 190 people that we're watching.
Yeah, dude, that's insane. So I mean, again, I agree. I don't want to downplay. I mean, gender-based violence and that type of stuff. It's not on, and I don't. None of us support that and whatever. But I mean, for me, it's just we're creating diversion. We're not talking about the topic at hand that I think the South Africans wants to hear about. And I mean, doesn't matter whether I like President Zuma, President Ramaphosa or not. I think it's still important that he is at least consistently addressing the nation and just being vocal and whatever. And none of that's happening. And then yet when he do show up, it's a shit show. Like, what is that about? Like, I muted half the stream later and then started jumping to other streams and saying hi to everybody because that conversation was just shit. So.
No, that's definitely the case. Guys, the brew is, you ready for this? Okay, but I'll get him in a second, but the brew wants to come in, so this ought to be entertaining. I reserve the right to put his mic on mute if he misbehaves. But anyway, no, absolutely. I mean, you wait for the head of state to come out and have a presentation and talk about these things. And then this, I mean, I don't know what to say. It's beyond comprehension. Could you imagine if Donald Trump did this? Oh my gosh, they would be roasting him endlessly for 36 hours about what an epic fail and how he just prattled on and said nothing useful. But of course, it'll be nothing but praise from SABC, ENCA, and News 24 tomorrow about how the president once again addressed the nation and informed South Africans about what was happening in their country. Utter nonsense.
Okay, but Chris, here's my question.
Yeah.
You and Tom, as outside of South African borders, what are your thoughts as far as here is a presidential figure addressing their nation? And what are your thoughts on that and with what you saw?
Well, it's actually, honestly, hard to take it seriously. This guy's the president of a country. I mean, this isn't even, I couldn't even take this guy seriously as the head of a local, Wimpy or something like that based on that conversation. That was just sad. No, seriously, I'm not being facetious. This is the president. I mean, when he came on before, his biggest focus was like, wash your hands. Really? We need the head of state to tell us to wash our hands? That's what parents are for.
And that's exactly my question. This dog show, cuck show, whatever you want to call it tonight.
No, that's cock show, not cock show.
No, cock show, not no, whatever the hell you call it, show.
No, Chris has got it right.
And the previous how many media statements he's made. if you, the international market, and you're talking about looking at South Africa as a investment platform or whatever the case,
Right.
and you're watching this president of the country making a statement, what are you going to feel about making your investment now? Are you going to feel solid? Yes, we're going to do this. I'm sorry, as a feeling living here in South Africa, no, I'm going to say no. I've just watched a monkey show.
Yeah, it's not inspiring at all.
No.
It reminds me a little bit of Jimmy Carter in his heyday.
That's a good point. No, but I mean, look, guys, there's already enough stuff to frighten away foreign direct investment. I mean, BEE is asinine, and those who know anything about South Africa don't want to be involved in it from an investment standpoint because they're not going to hand over the reins of their resources to someone based on the color of their skin because some ridiculous law from the government. So that's already hampering foreign direct investment. Then on top of that, the government's overspending to hand out social grants instead of increasing the economy and improving the tax collection system, which they had done for a period of time. You go back to before 2005, they actually had over 1 million South Africans paying into income taxes that had been paying previously, which was a good sign. But they've just destroyed it. And then now the total uncertainty over expropriation without compensation. Farmers and people that own land in South Africa can't sell their land. Nobody wants to buy it because you don't know what's going to happen. This uncertainty is what's driving foreign direct investment away. I don't even need to see this guy sit there and look like a confused, I don't know. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but just completely lost.
Take a lot of that out of the picture. Talk about intellectual property.
Yeah.
With the current laws, as far as intellectual property is concerned, I've got a couple of things on the go at the moment, and developing them here at the moment in the country is a problem for me, in the fact that if I develop them here, the country, if I lodge them here, can take them from me.
Yeah.
If they deem it necessary.
Absolutely.
And it's like, what the hell?
Right.
And
so,
I've got no standpoint.
So if you were, say, a pharmaceutical company and you develop through $3 billion of research the cure to something that we haven't been able to cure, maybe some type of cancer, and that's your property. Now the African National Congress passes expropriation without compensation. For the good of the nation, we're going to take away your intellectual property because it's property. And we took it for public good. And, of course, that money just funds the states so they stay in power in perpetuity. This is the insidiousness of the expropriation without compensation. People get fixated on land. Yeah, land is important. It's a big part of this and the uncertainty that it causes. But the real issue here is that expropriation without compensation means they can take anything, money, intellectual property, copyrights, anything. If you're a musician, they decide they want your song to be the national anthem. They take it and let everybody play it, and you never get a cent for it or a rand. That's what they can do. Right now, expropriation is the law of the land. It's in the Constitution. Section 25, the South African Constitution, allows for expropriation in the public interest. However, they must compensate you. So they can't compensate you by taking your intellectual property because they got to pay you dollar value for it, what it is. They can't take your money out of your retirement accounts because they have to replace it with money, the same amount. So it's a wash. But they can take your land now, but they got to pay you. But the land can be used for other purposes. So once expropriation without compensation comes into place, two things happen. Well, three. Number one, you eviscerate foreign direct investment. No idiot's going to put their money there. Number two, what you do is you destroy the economy because you can't use land as collateral anymore, which is what allows people to borrow money to invest and expand and grow and hire people and such. So that goes away. And there was a third point which went completely out of my head, but it'll come back later on. Let me let somebody else get in here. We had the Brew try to get in, but I think his phone failed. So he's not here. But Anthony did slip in. Anthony, of course, works for the South African Intelligence Services, so we never see his face. I don't think his name's really Anthony. I think it's, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead, Anthony.
Chris, you're lying on that one. I'm not working for the intelligence agency. I'm an IT specialist, and I'm just happy to see that you got your Zoom live stream fixed. Me and Nigel this afternoon was talking to each other, trying to get you to fix it. And just to add what Bradley said a while ago about Cyril Ramaphosa, the actual thing he went on was for the COVID-19, and then all of a sudden it was all about gender-based violence and forget the COVID-19. That was a sort of a funny thing that I saw.
No. Well, the gender-based violence was Bite Your Ankles made a point earlier. I did want to bring that up, so thank you for bringing it back. Bite Your Ankle says GBV has increased tremendously during lockdown due to increased unemployment, fights about money in the home, etc. So I see it as a valid point. Yeah, Bite Your Ankles, it is a valid point, and it was a valid point on February 27th when I did a video on it, and I talked about it and said that suicides, gender-based violence, domestic spousal abuse, and incest are going to be significant problems with this lockdown, especially in South Africa where people can't leave their homes. At least in other places, you could leave your homes for periods of time for certain purposes, but not in South Africa. So it is a serious issue, but that's not the point, Bite Your Ankles, and I'm not attacking Bite Your Ankles, trying to make a point here. It's not the point. He's using smoke and mirrors to distract from what's going on. He doesn't care about gender-based violence. He was the deputy president. What did he do about gender-based violence? He's been the president for 2+ years. What has he done? Not a damn thing. He doesn't care about it. This is smoke and mirrors distraction to cover and take people's attention away from the cigarettes, to take attention away from the rapid spread of COVID-19, yada, yada, yada. Go ahead, Bradley.
Let's also bring back, the gender-based violence thing, great. Yeah, I do not condone it at all. Don't get me wrong. But take alcohol away from people who drink on a daily basis.
And who are addicted to alcohol.
Take cigarettes away from people who smoke on a daily basis.
And who are addicted to nicotine.
And lock them in a home where they normally go to work for at least 8 to 10 hours on a daily basis. What's going to happen? They don't see their spouse for at least a third of the day. You're going to see emotions and shit flare up, and you don't think shit's going to happen. Come on, get serious.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's
Bradley?
absolutely right. Go ahead.
Bradley, you're talking about the psychological aspect of it. I mean, that was one of the things that I also thought about. I mean, let's take people who's got an alcohol problem, for instance, and now all of a sudden, you take away the alcohol, tempers are going to flare, and then they said, now we're going to bring alcohol back, and now what do you think those guys are going to do? They're going to start drinking again to make up for lost time. I mean, I've seen that on first-hand experience, and then spousal abuse picks up again. But not.
No, but see, you guys have got it all wrong. Apparently, you didn't hear the Great Enlightened one. So let me set you straight here. You see, it's in the nature. It's in the nature of white people to be racist, and this is why we have spousal abuse. Come again?
Okay, but because it's all the white people that are abusing all the black women in the townships that are causing the problems.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a white person that killed the UCT student. Lured her to the post office.
Oh, go figure.
Yeah. No, it's the logic here is the logic of a juvenile, and that's when you ask the question, Bradley, about thoughts about this guy being president. I mean, that's something a 6-year-old the conclusion a 6-year-old would come to. It makes no sense whatsoever. And to do this as a sitting president of a state, that's just insane. It's like Idi Amin. What a lunatic.
Yeah. So I'm happily sitting through my, I don't know, 4th bottle of wine.
Yeah, I noticed.
That's just bragging.
Yeah, it is just bragging. At this point, you're just bragging.
Yeah, because it's Thursday tomorrow. We can't buy alcohol. No, we can. Look. So, I mean, on this point, Chris, so my sister is an advocate, and her life work is now focusing on human trafficking, sex trafficking, drug trafficking, everything that kind of goes with that, but also then bonded labor and everything that, goes with that. And she's been obviously following and been a little bit involved in a lot of this stuff through COVID-19. And I was looking for the stuff she sent the other day around how in South Africa specifically, the human trafficking cases has picked up like 140% during COVID-19. And that was to your point yesterday with you would think that it's so much harder for a lot of this to happen during lockdown where everything is so strict, movement of people, what we should and can, or should not be doing, and how that just picked up, how that business kind of soared in the last 90 days. And that's locally in South Africa. And I mean, I can't remember the exact stuff now, but they were cracking down, not my sister herself, some of the organizations were cracking down on some of these houses with 40, 50, 60 underage kids, being I don't know, being prepared for whatever their next time in life is going to be, getting them all drugged up and dependent and whatever, So it's that's an interesting topic that I was not aware of until my sister started, focusing quite a bit on that. So
no, well, human trafficking is people talk when the issue of slavery comes up and people start talking about reparations, like, why don't we deal with slavery today? 50 to 75 million people living in slavery around the planet as we speak right now, and a big part of that is sexual slavery. And people always look at it like, well, okay, here in America they go, okay, that's something that happens to Asians or it happens to Moldovan girls. No, it happens all over the world. In South Africa, you have girls and boys from all ethnicities who are sold into slavery, into bondage, and forced to perform sexual acts in South Africa and around the world. And we see lots of Africans in the Emirates and places like that where they're forced into prostitution, or Saudi Arabia. Here in America, we have the situation. You have it everywhere around the world. There was a situation a couple years ago in a 12-year-old girl in a leafy suburb of Phoenix, beautiful location, upscale, upper middle income, not poor houses. We're talking about $500,000 houses, so these people aren't suffering. Broad daylight, after school, she's wearing her pajamas outside on the front porch, and her friend, who she went to school with, pulls up in a car and calls to her. So she comes over to the car, broad daylight, by the way. This was like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon after school. And as she walks up to the car, the door opens and someone snatches her and grabs her in the back seat. They lured her by kidnapping her friend. They drove her to a house. They sexually molested her and gang raped her for about 4 days. The only reason that she escaped and was found and survived this ordeal is because the people that were trafficking her and the other girl were wanted for a federal warrant for something else, and there was a sting operation to get them. It had something to do with money laundering or something like that. And the only reason they ever found out about it is because they had a listening device on the house, and so the camera. And so when they took these girls back there, they wound up in a part of the house where the camera was, and then they're like, "What's this?" And so the feds went in, and after about 5 days of her being a sexual slave, she was found, taken back. Now, the psychological, not to mention the physical trauma that occurred with that, and this is to a young girl on the streets of Phoenix from a upper middle income family. This happens across all demographics around the world, and they get away with this vile activity because they pay people off, they're connected, and people don't pursue them. This has been going on time immemorial, and it's really disgusting. And it's I'm glad that your sisters brought it to people's attention. It happens in South Africa. You also get Asians, the Chinese bringing people into sex slaves. It happens all over. It's really, really sad stuff, folks.
Here's something ironic. During the Second World War, the British, between France and Dover, that little strip of water, in the middle of the World War II, when there's submarines and battleships and cruisers and God knows what you want to call them, and airplanes flying overhead, the black market was pretty rich.
Yeah.
Boats were going across there with goods, commodities, stockings, cigarettes, tobacco, you name it, booze, in the middle of a war. So we can expect those kind of things, because the minute you make something illegal, you're just pushing it underground. That's all you're really doing.
And
it's
that's
just
thriving.
Yeah, and it's thriving, and that's what happens, and it just blows my mind that people don't read history and see that we just repeat the same, if I may say so, the bullshit that's been going on for centuries, and we repeat it over and over and over again and don't even realize it. And we don't tell people about this. We'll stand there and say, oh, gender violence. But gender violence has been, for centuries, it's been here.
Yeah.
Why is it an issue all of a sudden? You're hiding something. It's something you don't want to say,
No, absolutely, and it's definitely something that has been talked about for decades in Africa, and virtually nothing has been done about it. We hear it all the time. But honestly, folks, in the South African context, is definitely something that needs to be talked about: human trafficking, gender-based violence, and the one issue that nobody talks about that I keep raising, which people don't want to talk about because it's quite disgusting and vile. But you got to be honest here, and people don't want to talk about this. But this is incest. Particularly in Southern Africa, it's raft. The number of fathers who molest their daughters in particular is off the charts. And it happens in wealthy families. It happens in abject poverty. And consider this for a moment. These abusers have had 24/7 access to these children now for 3 months. Think about that. That ought to make you want to vomit. Now, that's a true story. And they don't want to talk about that. They don't want to raise that issue. And this is a consequence of a lot of things, but exacerbated by lockdown. It's really frightening And it disturbs me that in South Africa, the violence is off the charts. I mean, raping a girl is one thing, gang raping girls is another thing, but then brutally murdering her after the fact. And the murder is absolutely ridiculous because, first off, almost nobody's arrested for rape in South Africa. Of the few people that are arrested for rape in South Africa, almost none of them go to trial. And those who go to trial, so few of them ever convicted. And of those convicted, even fewer go to jail. So your odds of going to jail for a rape in South Africa are infinitesimal. And this is not something we should be telling rapists, but that's just a fact because the criminal justice system is broken beyond belief. So why do you brutally murder a girl after raping her when you're never going to go to jail for it? It's disgusting.
Can I make
to add to that? Sorry, go for it.
Nigel, Nigel, and then Yanni.
Just a quick one. Is that not an indication of the lack of moral within leaders themselves?
In not addressing it, do you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, absolutely. It's something that should be addressed. Absolutely. Christian is in the chat. Thanks for dialing in. And are you going to troll Christian? He's actually asked a good question before I let Yanni get in. Christian says, tell your friends about the Native American women go missing all the time. Well, absolutely. Native American women do go missing all the time, as well as white and black and Hispanic and Asian children in this country. But yeah, I think he's talking about a particular epidemic taking place on Indian reservations. Yanni, you were going to say something.
Yeah, agreed, Nigel. And I mean, to add to that, if that is such a minor crime in how South Africa is treating with it, are we sure that some of those 19,000 prisoners that we let loose because of COVID-19 is not in that category, where we have let some of those guys that was successfully convicted, free because it's a minor crime? We don't see that crime as being that bad. That's a very sad thing, because even where somebody isn't killed, it doesn't matter if somebody isn't killed, but by raping somebody, and even males can be raped. I mean, even same for sex trafficking and whatever. But I mean, doing that to a person is so demoralizing, dehumanizing, and breaking them forever. I mean, that for me is as bad as murdering somebody, because you've destroyed that person's life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a single event. For the rapist, it's a single event. For the person it happens to, it's a lifelong trauma that is difficult to recover from. And it affects people in so many ways. It happens to males and females when they're raped, and a lot of people have difficulty overcoming, and they become withdrawn, and they're not as outgoing, or they're not as dynamic as they once were. It's a horrific crime, and the fact that that it happens so often in South Africa, and only when it's politically expedient do political leaders bother to mention this. The rest of the time they're not mentioning it. It's really disturbing. Real leadership, this would be near the top of the agenda all the time, not just when it's International Women's Day, not just because you have an election campaign coming up, or not just because you're trying to cover up the fact that you're denying people cigarettes and smokes, and you're trying to imprison people in their own homes. That's what's going on here, and that's the most disturbing. The Brew is trying to come in. I'm going to try to get him in here. Let's see what happens. We'll see if he gets in there.
So something in South Africa, and I mean the guys in chat can just verify. We have one of our radio channels, our radio stations. They have this thing like every 60 seconds or every so many seconds, it's like a little beep. That beep is aligned with statistically how many people get raped in South Africa every day, and I think it's like once every second, or once every 60 seconds, or something like that. But I mean, it is insane when you hear that annoying beep every now and then, that that means something has happened somewhere. It is it's I don't even know what to say.
No, I can. Yeah.
Good, Nigel. Good.
I can tell you some horrific stories from the Congo, which we can do some other time.
No.
But it's just I have a problem with it because I grew up through that situation in 59 and 61. So I wouldn't say mental issues with you, but I have psychological issues with it. I have an anger problem sometimes when it comes to these things, that I just want to go and cut these people's throats because it's just ridiculous. So I have to control those emotions. And I'm being serious. It's not an easy thing. I think Erica, who comes on the stream now and again, she saw some of the stuff that happened in the Congo as well, which is horrendous. We talk about it, but until it's happened to you or you've seen it physically, it drains you mentally. Absolutely
It
drains
drives it
you.
home, yeah.
Absolutely. We've got the brew, and he raised his hand, so I'm going to switch over to
Hey,
the
Brew.
brew. And we've got 7 now. That's the record now for actually seeing people. Bradley's back. I think Bradley went to get another bottle of wine, but he's back now, or maybe went to the
No,
loo.
no. I've still got this one. I had
Okay.
to just go and see what was happening outside quickly.
No, that's fair enough. In South Africa, you hear noise. You don't disregard it. You got to pay attention there. Just make sure you're strapped when you go to the door. So hang on, Brew. I'm going to get you in here. So the Brew is coming in, and we're going to see what he's got to say here. Welcome in, Brew.
Can you guys hear me fine?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Crystal
Yeah,
clear.
sounds good.
I think somebody touched on, and I'm coming in late in here, where in certain African countries, and I might be coming in very hard now, where they literally cut off the labia of the females.
Female
Like,
female genitalia mutilation. Yes.
there we go. It's absolutely insane.
Yes.
If anybody does that to my daughter,
They're
I
fucked.
will be in jail. I will be in jail.
Yes.
Well, the Brew, if you're talking about female genital mutilation, is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, when you say if anybody does it to your daughter, it's actually parents that do it to their daughters in places like Yemen, Nigeria, also.
Chris, from my understanding, it's generally the witch doctor or the medicine man of the local area that does it. It's not generally the parents. It's the parents that allows it to be done.
That's correct.
But
Bradley. That's
it's,
what I mean.
it's the witch doctor that allows it, that actually does the operation.
Right, but it's
That's
not
such-
it's not the traditional healer or ruiner that brings the child to that location. It's the parents who are responsible. So here in the United States, we have this sick thing going on. I joined a campaign. I don't join campaigns very often, but I joined a campaign a couple years ago against female genital mutilation, because here in the United States we have over 640,000 girls and young women at risk of this happening to, and it happens every year. So not in 2020 because of COVID-19, but normally as we approach the summer months in June, July, and August, this has been known as the cutting. This is perversely known as the cutting season. So we have people who come from communities in Yemen and from Somalia, from the Sudan, from Nigeria, and they're from all faiths. They're Christians, they're animists, they're Muslims. People think it's Muslims. No, it's a cultural thing. It's not a religious thing, and it's not everywhere culture. It's in certain communities. And these people come here and they go elsewhere around the world. And then they send their children born in the United States, so they're American citizens, back to see auntie or granny for the cutting season. And as they come into their menstrual cycle, they slice off their clitoris, and oftentimes they stitch up their vagina to just a narrow opening, which causes all kinds of medical conditions. And it causes lifelong pain, agony, and it's a brutality. So that's different than rape, but it is sexual abuse of the worst order. And people have performed it here in the States and not been criminally charged with it, because not every state has a statute against it. Now, to me, I don't know how you can't have a statute against it. To me, that's sexual molestation or child endangerment. Child endangerment, the minimum, every state has a statute against that. But because it doesn't specifically say you can't slice the clitoris off a 13-year-old girl, states are arguing it. So hang on, I'll get to you in a second, Brew. So that's the reason for the campaign here, because these are American children. Now, they may be ethnically whatever from whatever part of the world. That doesn't matter. Being an American is not being white Anglican, Saxon, Protestant. It's not being Japanese American. It's being American. And so whether you come from, your parents come from the Senegal or from Niger or from Nigeria or from Somalia or the Yemen, and you come here and they try to send you off overseas to do that, that's a crime. Brew, you're on.
At what time and place does that become normal?
Never.
Exactly.
Well,
Why?
And if you question things like that, you've got leftists that say that, who are you to apply your cultural values? Well, I'll tell you who I am. This is a country that has laws, and that's immoral, and it's wrong.
Forgive me, Chris.
Yes.
Forgive me, Chris.
Yes.
Fuck the woke.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, we're past the family hour. Nigel opened up the profanity can, so he's already put a few rand.
My
but
apologies.
you know what?
My apologies.
Nigel's
that-
already put a few rand in the can.
Doing that to a woman, to a girl, is never all right.
Girl, she is 13 years old.
That's never all right. I don't give a shit about your culture, your whatever the fuck. No. I don't know.
And guys, it's not something you see often in South Africa, but we've seen it increasingly here in the United States, and we've seen it for decades in England. This horrific concept of honor killings, in which your sensibilities are offended, and so you murder your daughter. We've actually had people convicted of those crimes here in the United States. Tom, you've been out for a while. You ever come across any of this nonsense, or have you heard about it?
Sure. Actually, I grew up in New York City, and
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I've just got to say to the other person that's actually drinking alcohol.
New York City was big on that.
Cheers.
What is that? Bourville Sherry?
No. The brew is in his garage drinking Castle Lager.
All right, hang on. Let me. I've stocked up a bit.
I think he's chaffed drinking Castle Lager in his garage, which I think is total.
I've overcompensated.
Indeed, you have.
And
Hang on.
I was going to say when I was Special Forces in late 70s, early 80s, a lot of the places I went to were South America, Caribbean, some places like that, and there's a lot of stuff like that going around just to torture people. That's not.
Sorry. I need to introduce myself to the gentleman with the small glasses. I don't know who you are.
Tom, you're speaking
Nigel.
of Tom. Me.
Which one?
Right? I'm putting my ear against. I don't know why I'm putting my ear against the phone, but anyway.
Dat was 3 van ons met klasse op.
Exactly. There's 3 people with glasses, and they're all the same size. So which one are you talking about?
No, it's fucking the Asian gentleman.
Oh, that sounds racist. That's racist. You called him an Asian. I'm feeling oppressed. I'm feeling oppressed. You can't say that.
How fucked up? How fucked up is the world that as soon as you say it, the Asian gentleman with the glasses, and everyone, that's racist. No, come on now.
He means New Yorker.
That's right. He's
Fuck
a New
all
Yorker.
of you. I said gentleman.
Listen, if we're gonna give Tom crap for anything, it's gonna be being a New Yorker. None of the rest applies.
Hey, Tom, New Yorker. I take my hat off to you. You are a bunch of hardy motherfuckers.
Ugh.
And July 1st, 2020 was the last ever call-in live stream program in Indaba, Africa.
What is that for? No.
And I have to say here that when I was still enlisted, but in 1978, I was a pathfinder in a place called Jonestown, Guyana.
Ooh, Guyana grape.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man.
Okay.
And true story here, Chris. I have been Kool-Aid free since 1978. I haven't touched a drop of that stuff.
I wasn't even fucking born in. I wasn't even born in 78.
Now I feel old. But you want to talk about evil?
Super evil.
Can I ask my South African compatriots? We're talking about some pretty nasty things here, but it's not. It's in the news because it's horrific, but it's not widespread. You know what I'm trying to say? It's not. It's 0.09% of the population that probably does these atrocities. But we hear about it because of what it is. So I don't think it's widespread. In the sense that we make it sound like it is. Would you agree or disagree?
I agree.
Okay. May I interject?
I mean, Nigel. Okay,
Tom,
but that's the good point about it.
So just hang on, let Tom speak.
Raise a very close to home point. Our domestic. I mean, I'm 40 now this year, and we've had our domestic for 36 years. So we've had our domestic since I was 4 years old. I mean, this lady is as close to me as my mother. I mean, Nanny Witness is, like I said, she's as close to me as my mother. She's an absolute gem.
You're my Google.
Say it's my Google.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at one point, early in my life, she was going to send one of her sons off for the trials. The second son, and the first son, we didn't know her as well, but the second son, we knew her well enough that she had named. Now, the Brew and Nigel, you'll know, and Yanni, you'll know that when your gogo names the second son after, like, my father. Now, my Nanny Witness named the second son after my father. That's a big thing in the Zulu culture.
Mm. Yeah.
So what? You named him Adrian.
Yeah. It was Clifford.
Cliffy.
No.
Well, Cliffy. Okay.
Clifford. Now, in the Zulu culture, she's named her second son Clifford.
That's
True.
fucking amazing. That's amazing.
That's a big thing.
Yeah.
All right, so let me
Tom,
try
you
to
wanted
get,
to say something.
I want to get back control here. Yeah, I'm going to pretend I'm in charge here. So, Tom, go ahead and respond to Nigel's question, please, Tom.
Yeah, just one more. I'm getting back to the whole genital mutilation thing. It's coming back to that point. It'll come back to that point, I promise you. And her first son, she sent off to the witch doctor to have the trials of the time done. But the second son, after we'd known her for long enough and she had named her son after my father because of what she'd done and the time that she spent with us as a family. And I mean, that's a major honor. And we'd managed to talk to her about everything and speak to her about it. She had decided that it's, after realizing what the culture breeds into this ideology of mutilation, is actually not right. She decided not to send her son to go and have this mutilation done.
Well,
You know,
Sorry, Tom?
All right, it's on Tom. It's Tom's turn. Tom was talking to us about Guyana in 1978, which was when Congressman Leo Ryan was murdered by the Jonestown cult.
Okay, well, then I apologize for jumping in on it all.
You're good. You're good. It's on Tom now. So Tom, tell us about Guyana.
I just wanted to say that yes, that happens to a small percent of the population. It's precipitated by some evil people. The army has sent me to maybe two of the evilest places on the face of this earth. The first one is Jonestown, Guyana, and then when I was stationed in Europe, I went to Dachau. The parallels in those two places, there are a lot of them there. And I just, and if it taught me anything else, that wrong is wrong. And that's one of the reasons
I can hear the stuttering in the voice.
It's just, you're right.
Wrong.
It's wrong. And just, and again, I seen some of that stuff down in, I was in El Salvador in 81. I was in Honduras before it became 1981. Oh yeah. Then when they were allowing 55 official trainers, I was number 56, so I didn't count. So mankind does cruel things to itself, and it's
Where does it stop, though? Where does it stop?
absolutely.
How do we get to the point where we need to go, okay, guys, back the fuck up. Stop.
Because we still haven't learned how should I
No.
say this? Coexist peacefully. Everybody wants to have their own way, and nobody's willing to.
Okay. I don't know you from a bar of soap. How do you deal with it every single day? Your PTSD, obviously you have PTSD. I'm not saying
not as bad as some.
but-
I'll let you in on a secret. I spent 20 years in the Army and I was colorblind. I faked it. I wasn't supposed to be colorblind. I did. I mean,
that's unbelievable.
the Army, you memorize where red lights are and stoplights on the bottom.
Red,
On-
red.
On
stop
green and
the-
red
the-
lights at the jump door, it says jump. It says caution and jump. So when the jump light turns on, I know it's green. Go. But
No,
so I don't know
what
what everybody else sees in color because I'm colorblind. But this I know. I dream about Jonestown.
How do you know to move on from that? How do you know? How do you know how to move on from that?
You know,
Without
Brew,
being colorblind?
I suffer from, because of the stuff that happened in the Congo, and I suffer from these things, not in
What happened
extreme
in the Congo?
circumstances.
Share.
Well, let's chat about it
Please,
some other
brother.
time. But
No,
the way I,
share now.
no, I'm not going to tell you what happened, but we'll do it some other time. But the consequences is that I had to look deep within myself, and I had to deal with it myself. And I had two options: go out there and move the cuck out of everybody, or forgive them, forgive myself, and move on in life.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's the only way. That's the only way I learned to handle it. Because there's times when I listen to politicians like what's his name, Malema, our dear friend, Honorable Malema. You know, and I think, does this guy know what he's saying? You know, it's
No,
just
he doesn't.
horrible.
He's never fought. He's never fought the war. He's never experienced what every single one of you have experienced. So how can he have an absolute opinion about it? Which he has. He has an absolute opinion about it. And he just doesn't know. He's sitting in his mansion, having shitload of monies and la 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 and all those things and honeys and stuff. But
But
he
you know,
doesn't actually.
Brew doesn't matter.
With those guys.
Tom, carry on.
They don't know
Carry
what
on,
they're
Tom.
talking about. You got to blow it off, because if you don't, then you become
Like them.
you become sick.
Yeah.
Maybe like Nigel says, maybe I've forgiven myself, but I don't forgive Jim Jones. That guy's a coward. He did himself in. He was scared.
Let's not.
Right?
Oh, okay.
And plus it was religious based, and I went to that's why Jonestown existed.
All right, let's get away from the cult of Jonestown and gender-based violence horrifics, and let's get back to the cult of governance that is the South African government under the African National Congress. So we started this off talking about Cyril Ramaphosa and his presentation today, which a whole 109 people apparently watched. We've got Anthony joining us now, or not Anthony. Anthony's been there for a while. My apologies. Rudy's just popped in. Rudy tried to join us last night, and when we had the no visibility stream. So, Rudy, thanks for joining us. How are you tonight?
Hey, Rudy.
Can't hear your mic. You have no mic listed there, Rudy. It has a camera but no mic in my Zoom. That's strange. I'll give him a chance.
How do you get a camera?
No, it happens.
How do you
It's a
get a camera
software.
with no mic?
Brew, it's a software thing. Sometimes it happens. People don't get a camera,
okay.
and sometimes get a mic. It's
Sorry.
so Rudy will give you a chance to try to sort it, but right now you have no mic, so we can see you. It's nice to see you, but we can't hear a word you're saying. So, hey Yanni, you listened to a little bit of that. You said you just a bit, and you tuned it out and switched over. Was there anything useful you heard in what Ramaphosa had to say tonight at all?
Zip.
No, there's nothing, because I was trying to firstly, because I joined late, I was trying to pick up on the conversation. So I was trying to figure out, okay, what are we talking about here? And then it was jumping, because it jumped to the president, off the president to like a three-way, then back onto the president, and then off the president again. And I was like, okay, I'm still not getting the conversation. And it felt, I understand, I didn't know, but I understand people could phone in, and nobody could really phone in. So that was like a bit of a scam. So some questions was posed, but I was trying to figure out, okay, what are we talking about here? So to me, it almost looked like prepared, read to us like it's a prepared speech or a prepared, something that needed to be said. That was it really, and I got bored after like 50 minutes, because it wasn't grabbing me. So, and I kind of started hopping to other channels, see what Joe Emilio and everybody else was doing. So yeah, that's how bad it was. I couldn't really get anything from that. I'm hoping somebody will post a post brief summary that I can read through, because that'll go quicker and it'll get to the point if there is.
There is no summary. Yanni, there is no summary. There is no brief. It was all a lot of cuck. So have a nap. Maybe smoke a joint and a glass of wine. That's about the best I'll get out of it. I watched it on Ronaldo's stream. It was a waste of time.
So Rudy, your mic looks like it's active now. Are you with us, Rudy?
Yes, I think so. I'm chatting here from a laptop.
Oh my goodness! It sounds like you're sitting next to me. That's like 5 by 5. That's awesome. So Rudy, how are you tonight?
I'm a bit pissed off about this expropriation thing, because while all the smoke and mirrors is going on, they're pushing for the expropriation thing, and I just bought a piece of land. And now the question is, do I get rid of it? Do I develop it? Do I run? But I've spoken to some of my family members who are in the farming business. There's going to be a line drawn in the sand soon. It's going to come. So yes, we're all Boere, and I think me and guys like Bradley, maybe, and some of the other guests, we from the old school boys from the 80s. So when the line comes, we got to do what we got to do. You're not going to take my land, bro. It's as simple as that.
Rudy, that's actually an apropos topic, because we're approaching midnight in South Africa, not that far off. And on Thursday, my topic on stray voltage will be a special presentation. We're going to do a discussion of this. I think you're aware of that, talking about land and poverty, and we'll do a call in. I'm still debating about how to do this. It becomes a bit challenging to have so many people in the stream, everybody getting a chance to contribute. So I might limit it to 2 or 3 people simultaneously for that. But tomorrow we'll do that. And for those who don't know, if you look at tomorrow's live stream, go in the description of the video for the live stream. You'll see a link to an article that's on LinkedIn that I wrote, down below. You'll see that link to LinkedIn, and there's an article I wrote on land and poverty on April 7th, 2018, talking about the issues, laying it out. And so if you're going to be a participant tomorrow, either listening to the stream or watching it or calling in, I just ask that you take a look at that. It won't take too much of your time. Just read it, because I want to get people's thoughts on it, and we'll discuss it tomorrow. So Rudy, I think it's an apropos topic. I'm glad you kind of brought it up right now. Obviously, you're taking a risk there by buying land in this uncertain time as they attempt to do this. But if you don't mind me asking, did you buy development property, or did you buy some farmland or forest land, or
I bought a very large stand in a very small country town where the people are cool, black, white, pink, even the Pakis or whatever live there. Lovely little town. I won't say where it is at this stage of my life, but good prices.
Good job, Rustenburg.
No, it's in the Free State, man. And I'm in Joburg. You can't imagine how I want to get out of here. And the thing is, develop it, and the shit hits the fan. What do? So I think I'm not going to go anywhere. So yeah, I know what I'm going to do, and I know what my fellow boys around me are going to do.
Well, let's
So,
hope
yeah,
it doesn't
maybe
come
that.
to that. That's a quite a disturbing thought to think about what may or may not be. I mean, we saw what happened in KZN in the 1980s, late 1980s, early 1990s, the civil conflict fomented by ANC with Inkatha Freedom Party, among others, and the horrific things.
I
that
was
happened.
there, Chris. I was in Northern Natal at the time. We lost 3 farmers that got plugged there. And eventually they caught them. There were about 6 guys raining a reign of terror. Well, that was in the 90s, early 90s.
Yeah. Now,
This is the thing. This is the thing I don't understand.
Yeah.
We sit here and we discuss the ANC, etc., but yet they have a history. They have a history of non-compliance. They have a history of not listening to anybody. They have a history of violence. It's all there for us to see. And yet we plod on, hoping it's going to come right. And I agree with Rudy. The line has to be drawn sometime along the line. And it's unfortunate because violence to them, it doesn't mean anything. Let's just do it. That's their mindset. That's what I get.
They have not seen real war. I think most of the older gents on the panel here have seen war.
Yeah.
Yep.
We've been in a war zone. We don't want war.
No.
But when the shit comes,
No,
it's going to come. That's just the way it is. You
No,
got
and
to
Never, ever.
And even within Rudy, even within the ANC, virtually nobody in the ANC's actually saw genuine conflict. The handful
They
of,
haven't, man.
No.
They
Handful
asked anyway. So
that-
what the heck?
the handful of MK operatives that actually did anything of substance in Angola could be counted on a couple dozen hands. It's very few. So they've never seen this, and they don't understand. It's kind of like the morons, the idiots, the childish juvenile fools running Chaz/Chop, whatever it is. They seem to think that they have the moral authority and that they're right, and that God and whoever, well, they're probably atheists, most of them, but whoever thinks that what they're doing is correct. They have absolutely no clue about what they're talking about. And when the whirlwind comes down on people like that, they'll run screaming. And that's, but the sad
war's
part,
not fun.
the sad part is that innocence will be caught up in the nonsense when they perpetrate this. And they're starting something that they have little understanding of, and it's quite scary, really disturbing.
Chris, the thing
Mike,
is,
Mike.
we're very good at our game. Us Buddha are very good at our game. We invented guerrilla warfare, man. So
Yeah, even Churchill. Well, you did,
that's
because
what's happening
Churchill.
at the moment on
Chur-
the farms.
Yeah, Churchill wanted. That's why he called it the Commandos, because that's where he got his idea from when he was here.
But
When he
hope
was
that
running away. Yeah.
we can
So,
sort
now
it.
tell me, Rudy, my South African compatriots, as you can hear, ek is 'n regte soutie, maar ek weet julle is Afrikaners en dit maak nie saak nie. Now,
Doesn't matter.
how many of the younger generation, the ones that are 10, 15 younger than what we are, 20 years younger, how do they feel? Do they feel that it's, do they feel there's a conflict coming, or do they care less? That's a scary
And
part.
let's feel
My
the
circle of guys, wait, they're ready. They know what's coming, or the possibility of what's coming. And it's not about the black and white thing. It's a community thing. Communities will stand together. It's not going to be black and white, guys.
Yeah, I agree. It's a cultural, it'll be a political cultural thing.
And ideology is the major thing here. And
Can
the
I-
problem is we're sitting with all these youngsters who grew up with this shit ideology and never fought for anything in their lives. They just got it for nothing.
I think, Chris, this is where you Americans have got the problem, because these youngsters have been so brainwashed by the left that I listen to them and I think, where are they coming from? Do they know? Where's the reality of the world?
No, it's not there, and it's quite disturbing. What really bothers me about this is that, what the hell have I been doing for 36 and a half years, serving 23 of them overseas, supporting defending the Constitution, so that people have the right to free speech and freedom of assembly, only to come back here and have some little turd who doesn't know jack about the world tell me that I can't assemble somewhere, or that I'm 100 yards away from them and not having a mask on is scaring them, or that the fact that I think that it's dangerous to tear down the statue of an abolitionist who devoted his entire income to educating illiterate black freed slaves, and that it's okay to tear down a statue and paint KKK over it because he had white privilege. What? Excuse me? What planet are you people on? It's absolutely disturbing, and sometimes it makes me wonder if I haven't wasted my life. I should have just gone to business and become filthy rich and just exploited the world and be living in a big mansion like all these leftists.
True.
Chris, can I weigh in on this conversation?
Anthony, you're still there. Good. And I've got Rigel coming here. Rigel coming in a second. Anthony, go ahead.
Cool. You guys are talking about the young guys. I'm 28 now, and I feel that something is coming. But my main thing is, I had this question about discipline, and I think that's where all the young people need to go back to discipline. I mean, take all of the old guys who enlisted in the SANDF those days. What was my major component of basic military training is to discipline the young people in order to take orders and carry out orders. And I think we need to go back to that. And
We
Bullshit.
didn't enlist. We were told.
Bullshit.
Conscript.
Yeah, no, but Anthony has I think there's validity to part of his point here. Discipline is important. Now, people take it too far or take it the wrong way. It's interesting because in this society, the military, and before COVID-19 nonsense and this insurrection is taking place, the military has been held in high esteem for 3 decades, almost 4 decades in America. After a Vietnam experience, we've been held in high regard. But people just automatically assume that, and it's part of an acculturation process in which people are taught to respect the military and respect service, and it goes a little bit too far. But beyond that, I see very little in the way of discipline in our society here in America. Having been abroad for so long, I come back and I see the laziness of people, leaving their shopping carts. It's a minor thing, but you go to Walmart and they just leave their shopping cart right there so it can bang into someone else's $50,000, $60,000 car. That's a small example.
It's got
Chris,
nothing to
you
do with
shop
discipline.
at
It's lack of
Walmart?
self-respect.
What's that, Rudy?
Sorry, Uncle.
It's not discipline. It's a lack of self-respect.
Well, that's certainly part of it. Absolutely. That's what I'm doing it. Yeah. No, Nigel, I didn't say I shop at Walmart. I said I've been in the parking lot at Walmart. Okay.
Walmart. We don't even have a fucking Walmart.
Yes, you do. It's called Mass Mart. Who do you think owns
Macro.
Mass
It's also
Mart?
called Macro.
That's right.
Macro.
Macro.
Afrikaans.
Macro. You'll be those Joburg girls.
I don't give a shit.
We've been talking about a lot of negative things, but I personally,
Yes.
to me, there's a glint of light on the horizon. I see that. There's enough goodwill amongst all South Africans, regardless of race, culture, and religion.
Yes.
Okay, who don't want this bullshit. Okay, because it's a very small percentage that are causing this problem. I mean, I speak to people in our complex, black, white, Chinese, you name them, and we all, as hulle sê in Afrikaans, ons is gatvol van hierdie fucking kak. Okay, skoon with my taal, maar
Same thing.
sorry, Chris, I swore there.
No, it's
I'll
okay.
put money in the
No,
chat.
it's okay. Speaking of which, that's an apropos moment for me to. It's an apropos moment for me to bring this up. So actually, I was reticent to do this, but I actually have to do it because it's the name of the video. So I'm going to have a guest on maybe on Friday. Some of you may know who she is. She had a video that went viral, and what happened? She was in Namibia and riding on her bicycle, and ran into a rugby goalpost. And you may know what I'm talking about. And that's the reason I say Nigel, it's okay if you use profanity is because
You're actually gonna have that chick on.
Because Nigel, because you used the profanity, the name of the video is "My Fuck Malise." So yeah, so that will be. She will be a guest on my channel. She will be a guest on my channel. She's currently in the Netherlands, where she's working as an au pair, and I'm gonna have her on. Brew, you're gonna have to be quieter. We're gonna have to put you on mute, man. But anyway, so no, it's okay. But so she'll be my guest maybe on Friday, and I'm also working another stream on
nice.
Friday. But yeah, cool. So since you use profanity, and I was trying to figure out time to work in the profane title there, my fuck Malise. So that's.
But I do feel there is hope for the country. I really do. You know, South Africans. I'm a foreigner. I'm a first generation. Not even a first generation South African. I wasn't born here. I'm an immigrant from years back. And it's become part of my culture. It's become part of my people, etc., etc. Now, if you compare the ANC to the older regime, they're not much different in many respects. Same damn thing, But it's time now that the people of South Africa, the people, not whites, blacks, but the people stand up and say, you know what, enough is enough.
Nigel, you're spot on. From my perspective, this is a point I've been making for a long time. Oftentimes, I compare the NP to the ANC, and I tell people it's old wine in new bottles, and they look at me like you're crazy. No, Okay, now it may have been out of necessity, but the National Party may have been out of necessity, but they relied on state-owned enterprises. It was a socialist command economy. The government was run by the security state, increasingly so as apartheid continued, so that by the end, it was not the parliament that controlled South Africa. It was the security state, the intelligence services, and the heads of the military who are ones who made the decisions that affected that country. And the NP was all too comfortable with patronage and handing out plum positions. The difference between patronage in the ANC and the NP is that the ANC patronage is full of incompetence. The NP at least put competent people through patronage into positions, but it was no more right than what the ANC does. And the NP used laws to discriminate against much of the population, and now the ANC is using laws. Now they think it's only against a minority of the population, but they're using it against all South Africans. When you deny money or contracts to a minority-owned business where 2/3 of the employees are black, who are you hurting? Who are you hurting? So I think, Nigel, we are simpatico on that, and that's an argument that I've been making for a long time. That's why I get a kick out of people who jump on the streams and they say, like we had yesterday, who was jumping on the stream? It was on Ronaldo's stream. Then he came. I invited him to come over. What was that guy? I can't think right now.
Tomb Raider.
Tomb Raider, yeah. And Tomb Raider was trying. Thank you, Anthony. Tomb Raider was trying to say that I was defending Helen Zilla and she's a racist because this and other. And why don't I ever say anything about this? I'm like, well, do you pay attention to what I say? I actually say things all the time that you're not talking about. You're just parsing things because it fits your narrative and not being intellectually honest. Nigel, with you, I think I agree with you that a lot of South Africans, if they weren't awake, are waking up now to realize just what a messed up situation they have, and that the government,
that's my hope.
And the government in power needs to be given a message, a clear message. And this is why I think that it's possible for an opposition party, assuming there's a 2021 municipal election, that an opposition party can win an outright majority in Nelson Mandela Bay, Cape Town, Johannesburg, and Pretoria. And for 2 years, they can run those governments without relying on corrupt coalition partners to stay in power, and they can govern. And if they govern effectively, even though they won't control the budgets coming down to them, they can show the public that there is another answer to what's going on. And so that's my hope for South Africa. So I think that's a reasonable hope. Rigel, you've been in here for a bit, but we haven't had a chance to get you in. So is there something you'd like to add to the conversation?
How's it, guys? I just want to add my 2 cents. I'm actually on a farm here in the Midlands. And yeah.
Oh, sexy
That
time.
place to be now, I believe.
Yeah, I was actually in Cape Town for 5 years, and the prices were a bit too high, so I had to move back here.
But I went to school in that area, and Northern Natal. It's one of the most beautiful parts of the country. But I believe you guys have a lot of problems with the locals around there damaging the usual. It's veld fires and it's fence cutting and it's animal.
Yeah, we're actually doing fire breaks here. I'm actually an IT guy, so I'm kind of in the midst here. But it's amazing the things you can do now with the internet and whatnot. You can actually do your IT job chilling in a farm in the middle of the Midlands in South Africa, which is pretty cool. But I'm a younger individual, and when you guys are talking about all these issues and whatnot, which is true, and the biggest thing is for us younger individuals is to have hope. That's the biggest issue I think that we have, and it just feels like the ANC government is just has its stranglehold around us, especially the white individuals. Unfortunately, that's the reality of the matter. And obviously I used to work in South Africa as well. I'm working remotely now, but a big part of me doing that was because of the issue, the BEE, problems and a whole bunch of other things. It's pretty hectic, but I don't normally do this, so I'll need a little bit of practice, talking live and getting my facts straight and whatnot, and perhaps preparing a PowerPoint presentation one day on the stuff that I do. But I thought I would just share that with you guys now, just as a test as well, since you guys are testing the amount of video and whatnot. But yeah, I do have strong opinions. I just don't want to go into a rant, because once you start ranting on, you might say a few things that you regret later. So
yeah, no, that's always a hazard.
That's my 2 cents.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing. Appreciate you jumping in.
Yes, I just wanted to add as well, like, because I think yesterday you guys probably thinking, this guy's probably a troll or whatever. But it's just a precaution. I have a family that's actually in the government, in the Democratic Alliance and whatnot. And I have my own, accounts on Facebook and whatnot. And I've had cases where certain people have actually, according, to my opinions or whatever, I've been talking in a group or whatever, and somebody would, not agree with my political opinions. And then they'll go like tattletale or whatever, and I've had issues in the past. So I just wanted to take a precaution there. But I'm hoping once I get into this, I'm hoping to bring my dad along, and one of these days we'll have a YouTube channel or something similar. And just talking about our experience. My dad's also in a similar situation as you, Chris. He's also been in intelligence, kind of like that, but I won't get into it. He's still there, and he'll be retiring soon, and hopefully he'll be able to give some insight. Obviously, he's not going to give away all the state secrets and whatnot, but he'll definitely have some valid arguments to add. But yeah, anyway, I'm not gonna take up any more of you guys' time. You guys can carry on.
All right, Nigel, good comments. Appreciate you you jumping there. Hang on, Nigel. I'll get you in a second.
Sorry.
No, it's quite all right. I'll get you in a second. Yeah, I just want to say no. Thanks a lot. And look, it's not a problem coming in without the camera. That's not an issue. I was just teasing you last night. Your points are well taken, particularly in the toxic environment that we live in today. One's privacy, or I'm sorry, one's privacy is important to protect. So you want to make sure that.
We just need some time to to get things sorted out. I need to sort my LinkedIn account and tell everyone, hey, this is what I'm going to be doing. If anyone gives you hate mail or if something happens, because there's always big implications, and I mean that's how the the ANC works as well. A lot of people think, oh, ANC government, they're doing all these bad things, but they're not as dumb as you think. They're actually smart. And they fight, using guerrilla tactics. I mean, that's the way their mindset is. And they'll use any method, and they'll run away. Attack you and run away and hide in the bushes. So yeah. Anyway,
but thanks
Rigel,
for
just
joining. Go ahead, Nigel. Go ahead, Nigel.
Before you go offline, Rigel, just one question I want to pose to you, and it can just be a yes or no. Do you see a future for South Africa?
I don't want to say no, but the way I feel, it's like all hope is being drained. Like when you look in the news, when you try to look for jobs, I mean, when the president is talking, whatnot, he's your president. He's supposed to be your hero. I'm South African. I want to be a proud South African, just as an American is a proud American. But the more I look at it, the more I can see because my uncle has immigrated, and obviously his father was actually killed on this farm in a farm attack. So there's actually a whole long story that we can go into. But yeah. So
okay, let me put it simply. Do you see a ray of light on the horizon?
Unfortunately, as it stands, I would say no.
Okay.
I don't want to be a downer, but that's the reality.
That's fine.
That's why I stopped working here, and I said to my uncle, what, I can't do this anymore. I've had these incidents, these cases. We've done this work. We have this idea because we had a business plan and whatnot, and these certain things have happened, and rather let's let me work with you and let's focus on somewhere else. And it's a horrible thing to do. It's like you're forsaking your own land. But I feel like my core values, the things that I believe in, are very in line with the way an American person thinks. I've been to China before. Our business has done, and I could get into the whole subversion thing. I have a whole lot of experience as well, but at some point I'll get into that. But but that's how I feel. I feel that I'm more American than South African, which that tells you everything already. And it's not like propaganda from America or whatnot. It's the core values as a human being that I have, believing that I must carry a weapon and I have the right to defend my farm from people that are going to be attacking me, and things like that. There's a whole bunch that we can get into, but yeah, I don't.
Rigel,
I don't have a lot of practice, and once you start because I also get emotional when I'm talking about things. That's why I don't like to talk about political things, except with my dad. I'm normally calmer, but yeah.
No, Roger, I was going to say, don't sweat it. I mean, Nigel's question was straightforward, and you gave an honest answer. What's sad for me, and it has been sad for a long time, is this is not a singular voice from one young person in South Africa or from one ethnicity. This is a common refrain, and that's the scary part. When people are more interested in leaving your country than building your country, that's a really sad reflection on what's happening. With that said, South Africa, despite malgovernance and malfeasance, has a wealth of human capital. It has a functioning financial system. It has a wealth of natural resources. It has great potential and can be quite something else. It just simply needs the right political direction and leadership to inspire. And it's up to the people of South Africa to change that. For me, the sad part is hearing South Africans want to leave. That's really sad. And you guys have no idea the number of email messages I'm getting from people since I started my channel, asking me how they can come to America, how can they get out, where can they go. Since I've worked in all these embassies and I've worked with immigration officials before, they're asking me for insights on helping them get out. And that's really, really sad. I mean, listen, this country right now, the U.S. has got some real problems because we've raised 3 generations of nappy, wet their nappy little piss bags that have got the wrong worldview and need a little hide tanning to make them grow up. And so now we're living with the consequences of indulging our children and not disciplining them and not teaching them values and letting our schools be run by communists. So we're dealing with these consequences now. And despite that, this is still an amazing place with lots of opportunity for everyone. You see it in the fact that over 1 million people get naturalized in this country every year. So what we have to do is instill the right values in progeny and fight for what we believe in. So Rigel, thanks for your honest response. It's appreciated. And I hope that that the path can be turned for South Africans, because it's really depressing to hear that people want to look elsewhere. But by the way, thank you for saying that you align with American values, because our values rock, man. Our values rock. So I'm happy to hear that.
Totally.
Only the Republicans, eh?
No. There's people on the other side of the aisle that believe in the values of America. They believe in the Second Amendment, but for some reason they're strangely quiet and they're letting their party be run off in a distance. It's just really, really scary. So there you go. Cool beans. All right. So, Rigel, thanks for coming in. And you can stay off camera as long as you need to. We'll keep teasing you about it. That's my prerogative. So I'll do that. But
yeah, it'll be almost like a great unboxing, but a great revealing or something. Not really, but yeah.
Well,
anyway.
As long as you don't turn out to be, never mind. We'll stop there. Okay, we'll stop there.
There's also,
I'm just a normal dude. Yeah, I'm not anyone.
There's also a pseudonym, Rigel. I mean, Conscious Caracal was not hiding, but I mean, he had his pseudonym for a long time until it was revealed. So, I mean, I know people feel like you're being fake if you have a pseudonym or something, but it doesn't matter because it's an identity that you are, taking forward. So, I mean, don't be scared of that either. If you have something to say, people will listen.
Exactly. If there's validity to your argument, people will listen. And of course, if there's validity to your argument, that means that you'll get trolled.
Yeah.
That's
I'm just anonymous, not being anonymous.
What's the new thing called? How do you call it? Something where
intersectional.
Intersexual. No.
Intersectional. No, it's not intersexual. It's intersectional.
No, I apparently I made a racial slur towards an individual, so I need to be very careful what I say.
What are you talking about on this stream, Brew? You talking to Tom? You didn't do that. We were just teasing people. That wasn't a racial slur.
No, not this. Like my actual life.
Oh. Well, if people just live by the golden rule, then things will be fine. Treat people how you like to be treated, and then we're all good to go.
If it happens, it happens.
Rudy, did you have something? It looked like you had something to contribute there, and your mic got cut off.
No, I'm just listening to the younger people. My son is working in the States on a farm to earn a living because they can't get work here.
Can you say what state he's in?
He's in Texas, north of Texas. What's the place?
Texas.
So I could too, I forgot the name of the place now, but it's very flat. There's a lot of cotton and a lot of corn and a lot of big machines.
That's
and
Texas.
they're doing 15 hours a day, you know?
The only thing missing was the cattle.
And the Americans love him because those boykies can work, you know? You can make a plane. Something breaks, they fix it.
Yeah.
And they can do the long hours. And they're on the job every day. There's no excuses of coming in with a hangover. And you've got a hangover, you work, my boy. That's the way it works. But yep. But I think in South Africa, even all over the world, in all situations, wars, whatever, there's always some good and opportunity. And I think the guys must look at opportunity around you. And that's what I'm doing, looking at my front door, not across the water. So that's
we're at an age disadvantage, Rudy. You and I.
Go to South America, Nigel, and you know what? I still want to go because of the culture. I want to go ride it with an off-road bike, and I love the people. But hey, nothing smells like the rain in Africa. Nothing. I don't know, Chris. What do you say?
About
nothing smells like the rain on African soil.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny, but people kind of look at this like people are just making things up. But I can recall the exact smell of a place, and not in a negative way, but in a positive way, of when I first got to Germany, when I first rocked up in Saudi Arabia, and the first time I arrived in Africa. Each place I was in Africa. To me, when I arrived in Windhoek, there was a very specific feeling, a sense, and a smell that I associate with that arrival. And there was a very specific one the first time I landed in South Africa. Absolutely. And once you get it under your nails, or it's in your blood, it's really there. If you're talking about Africa, it's difficult to get that out. That's just it's part of who you become. Look at Nigel. You know, he's an Englishman pretending to be a South African, but he's really a South African pretending to be an Englishman.
Good one. Je suis pas anglais, je suis français, mon belge. Hein? Ma mère est française et mon père est anglais.
Ah, okay.
C'est pour ça que je parle français.
All right.
Chris knows what I'm saying.
I know exactly what he's saying. Yeah. But that's an odd mix too. An English father and a French mother. That I don't know how that worked out. We're not. It's probably took a few drinks.
Yeah.
Note about for those who don't know, the French and English, they really have this thing, and it goes back a long time. And of course, it all comes down to intermarriage between Normans and Anglo-Saxons and French and claiming Maine and claiming Anjou and claiming Brittany and Normandy.
I don't know.
How do you know the difference between a Belgian or a Frenchman and a Hollander?
How?
Well, a Frenchman is always using his hands when he speaks.
Yeah.
And a Holland goes, yeah.
I'm from French descent. I mean, you know.
Funny enough, I'm German descent. I'm actually, my name comes from a little place called Bad Soden in Germany.
Yes,
that's my descent.
I know the town. I know the town Bad Soden. Yeah. Yes, yep. I lived in Bad Kreuznach. Bad is a German word for spa. For those who don't know. Yeah. Yep. So they're usually hot springs or salt spas or something like that. So yeah, Bad Soden. Yep. I was gonna get to that. So maybe Nigel's playing the intelligence operative on me, claiming he has an English father and a French mother with a German surname. But last night or whenever it was earlier today, I'm trying to remember. No, it was last night. We had Wilhelm in here, who isn't really Wilhelm. A young man works in IT, and he was posing as Mahatma Gandhi, I think, at one stage. He was trying to convince us he was Mahatma Gandhi.
Really?
Anyway, so all right. Well, let's see. Tomorrow, folks. Okay, so a couple things. Just run through it really quickly while you guys are here. Again, I'm going to have my Fok Malaysia. She's going to be on here. And that should be an interesting stream for those who are curious. From what
time?
I'm not certain. I haven't negotiated the time. I'll put it up and I'll mention it in tomorrow's stream on the land. So I'll mention it. So hopefully I'll get her on Friday, but also on Friday, either Friday or Sunday, I'm trying to have David Otto, who's a Nigerian, UK Nigerian citizen, who is an expert on counterterrorism and national security. So we're going to talk about that, along with a Nigerian American who is a U.S. Air Force officer and worked in intelligence. I've worked with them on dealing with the ISIS crisis, repatriating ISIS fighters and their family members.
Hang on. Counter to
Okay, I got to put. Okay, I couldn't hear. So I'm going to have David Otto and Tanya is their name. Going to have them on in a three-way conversation about counterterrorism and national security in Africa, but in general. And then I have on Saturday Major General Johan Josta, who was in the SADF and then in the SANDF after the transition, retired as a two-star general, later worked for British America or BAE Systems, and then he worked for the National Park Service for several years, and now is a consultant working with the Park Service in South Africa. So he'll be on Saturday. That's my regular live stream on Saturday. So that's 3 shows coming up. And then once again, just to let people know, I will have Giselle back on the channel sometime soon, and we're going to have videos, and we're going to talk about her songs because every song has been released from Fit Uns Mensa now has been released digitally. So that should be interesting, and we'll have that coming up soon. So those just for people to know. Tomorrow, of course, is the special feature. Somebody's got some reverb there. It's got a microphone on. Tomorrow is the special feature on land and poverty in South Africa, and it'll be an opportunity for folks to call in and talk about these topics.
Rudy, switch your mic off.
Is it Rudy?
Because it's bouncing off your yard.
There we go.
Okay.
Well, whoever it was, that's fixed it. I think that's fixed. Anyway, yeah. So that's just some of the streams coming up. This one was to talk about Cyril Ramaphosa's appearance today, but as we've discussed at length, and it didn't take much length to discuss it, there really wasn't much meat on that bone. That was, today I was driving along the road and I saw a buzzard eating the carcass of a squirrel that got run over by a car. And this is about as much meat as you get on a squirrel. That's what Cyril Ramaphosa had to offer us tonight. No. So there you go. A little disappointing for folks. We did talk about it. Yanni, I asked him about it, and Yanni said, he tried to watch it, but he just lost interest and went to Joe Emilio's program and a few other places. And I think that kind of sums up what it was about. And I think earlier Bradley, when we were talking, was talking about this. So that's kind of where it was at. For folks who are a little disappointed we didn't spend the entire stream talking about Cyril Ramaphosa's speech, well, there really wasn't much meat on that bone. And so that's kind of where it's at there. So why don't we, let me see, I think we're coming up on nearly 3 hours, so I'm going to get ready to wrap it up here, guys. But before I do, we've still got some folks in the chat and also here in the conversation. So let me go around the room and get some final thoughts and comments from folks here, okay? Let me start with the Brew. Hey, Brew, thanks for, your mic is shut off. I sent you an unmute thing. Can you see it? Yeah, no, it's okay. Your mic was giving feedback, so I put on mute earlier. So, Brew, any last thoughts about tonight or comments? Are you going to tune in for the land discussion tomorrow?
The what?
Are you going to tune in for the stream tomorrow about land and poverty in South Africa?
The land and poverty in South Africa.
Yeah, that sounds like a no. It sounds like you're not aware of the stream tomorrow, but you're welcome to tune in tomorrow if you like. So, any last thoughts about today?
Let me finish.
Okay.
You're just talking over me. I think the most important thing that we have to remember as South Africans, is this is the new normal. We have been in lockdown longer than any country in the world. Am I wrong or am I right?
No, you're correct. And you've had a more draconian lockdown than any country in the world. No other country is banning tobacco products.
Exactly. No other country has been in lockdown as long as we have. So let's just think about this. You, Uncle Chris, great. You've been talking about it, and it's great, and it's all fun and games, and all lovely and that. It's no longer a. It's not about the virus anymore. It's about control. And that's all I have to say.
Brew, actually, great comment. You wrapped it up really well there. Thanks a lot, my friend, for adding that. It is about control. I think many of us agree on that across the board. Anthony, you've been there patient and quiet for a long time. Any final thoughts before we close out this live stream?
Yes, Chris, just to add what the Brew just said, this whole thing about the cancel culture, I remember about the Leon Schuster that I asked you the question about. All of this is coming to a point where the government, they're trying to put us in the position that if they say move left, we move left. I mean, that is the ultimate goal, to control us completely. That's why they're starting to erase the history slowly but surely. And I mean, it's not even happening. It's not just happening here. It's happening in America as well, with the defacing of the statues going on and all those things.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you there. All right, cool. Thanks a lot, Anthony. Rigel, any closing thoughts?
How's it? Yeah, I'll just say that everyone remember that local is lacquer. And if somebody doesn't want you to think for yourself, that person is not your friend. That's all I have to say.
Wow, nice closeout. Mic drop there. Well done. Okay. All right. So, Rudy, what you got for us on the way out the door?
I agree with the other boys. And on top of that, I'd say do whatever you need to do to survive.
All right. Man, this is starting to sound like the Rolling Stones.
I'm
that kind of philosophy there. Whatever it takes, the Rolling Stones. Nigel.
Been there, done it.
I agree with everyone and all the comments that's been said. I wouldn't like to say that there's a conspiracy in the world, but there's certainly an onslaught on conservatism, and the left are trying their damnedest to take over and be our thoughts and our morals, which is not going to work as far as I'm concerned. But the evening's been great. I think it's been nice to chat and see faces and who we're speaking to, and looking forward to tomorrow night. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Nigel. Appreciate that. The pretend Englishman who's really a South African with the German surname, but we'll move on.
But wait a minute. Any more rubbish from you, and I will deal with you quietly, yeah?
Now I think I'm watching. Now I think I'm watching an episode of Hogan's Heroes. You sound like Sergeant Schultz. I know nothing. Nothing. John Banner was actually an Austrian Jew. The gentleman who played Sergeant Schultz. He died just a couple years after the program went off the air, sadly. But he was quite an entertaining figure, wasn't he? As well as Colonel Klink, Werner Klemperer, was a German Jew from Cologne, and he played that role, but said he would only play the role if Colonel Klink was a buffoon, because he wanted the Nazis to look like buffoons. And he played it with aplomb. It was a brilliant role by Werner Klemperer, quite a brilliant actor. But Hogan's Heroes, I got the entire DVD set in my basement, and now I know what I'm watching tonight because it's brought those memories up. So thank you for that, Nigel.
Yes. Thank you.
Yanni, take us home. What do you got to say as we close out?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Chris. It's always hard going last. I think in general, not necessarily specific to tonight. I think what I enjoyed about this is your stream, your chat is got a really good spread in terms of age both up and down. I mean, I'm 38 years old, so I'm kind of like somewhere in the middle of everybody. We've got guys younger than me, and we've got a couple of guys older than me, and it's interesting because as I think Nigel has mentioned, sometimes some of the points does get a little what was the right word? Does get a little down at points in times. It's, I think, still exciting for me that I think there is a lot of us that shares a common way of thought that I can see in your stream, and that really comes out through a stream like this tonight, because it's hard to sometimes have these conversations in chat, and it doesn't really come through to drive these one-liner points, because I think for you as the master streamer, keeping up with chat and going what's happening is really hard. So I really enjoyed that from this evening's chat, because sometimes, like Rigel or Anthony said, it's you feel like you're not contributing to the chat, but it was a really good discussion. I really enjoyed this, because for me, as disappointed as I might be in our government, I'm excited about South Africa. And it's things like this that makes it exciting for me, because that is the hope that I'm hanging on to, because it's not something I read on News 24. It's not something I'm seeing on Facebook, or it's not something that I'm seeing our president say or not. It's these type of things. I really enjoy that. So these streams, I think, means a lot. I really enjoy it. And like I say, it doesn't really come through in chat. And even though some nights I do miss your stream, like last night I was just based, I was in bed like at 8:30. I watched your last night's stream this morning, and I actually stopped working and I was like watching the stream because of how that conversation went, you know. So, it does mean a lot. I really enjoy that. So, thank you very much for that.
No, Yanni,
And thanks to all the guys as well for the conversation. So, sorry, Chris. Thanks to all the guys for the conversation as well.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. You got to judge when people are finished. And I thought you were done there, and I failed. So epic failure. But no. Thanks a lot, Yanni. And the funny thing about that is, last night's stream there was nobody on the screen. It was just the Mahalisburg, and it was basically a podcast because I couldn't get the video in. So yeah, it was pretty cool. So thanks, thank you so much for that. I really, for me, I'm trying to keep this as interesting as possible with all sorts of guests. I mean, a small scale commercial farmer in Ghana, a security specialist on the Lake Chad Basin, debt in Africa from a finance specialist, Renee Kruger, a Burmese, to talk about that culture, Ronaldo Hos on the program. Yes, I'm hot full of saying that G sound. No, that's what I'm trying to do. And so people were laughing that I'm bringing on the young lady, my folk Malaysia, but it's something different. And then, of course, I'm also trying to get all kinds of voices. So I've had Unata Kwaza on here. I've had Big Daddy Liberty on here. I've had Odin Moja. So there's a Tswana, a Xhosa, and a Zulu South African, all of whom are thinking with great hope for change in South Africa based on people being hot full of all the nonsense. And so I think that that's what I'm trying to achieve here, and not just in South Africa, but this is a narrative for all of Africa, for people to wake up and look around. So that's what I'm trying to achieve on the channel. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. For those who are subscribers, thank you so much for becoming subscribers. And let me thank all of my guests who were on here, including Tom and a few others who had to depart earlier. We didn't quite hit the 49 on the screen. That probably would have been really challenging, but we got up to 7 or 8 on here. So thank you all so much for the contributions there, for the conversation. If you're a subscriber, thank you for being a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber, hey, give it a try. Smash that button right down there. It cost, hang on, you ready for this? It's a princely sum. Absolutely nothing to become a subscriber. It's free. And if you don't want notifications, you don't get notifications. You can get notifications, but you don't have to get notifications. But I encourage you to get notifications of prepared videos like the one I just did about Musi Maimane, which was released this morning. And the video I did about Musi Maimane was talking about his hypocrisy that's taking place and the things he's saying. And there's a super chat that just came in from Anthony. Anthony says, I need to get a camera. Okay, cool beans. Please get a camera, Anthony, but feel free. But thank you for the super chat, 14 Rand super chat, thanking us. If you are a subscriber and you're interested in supporting the channel, this is not e-begging. I'm just saying because people asked me to create memberships, I did. And so we've got 55 members already in just 2 weeks. That's amazing. Thank you so much for that. And it's not a commitment. I mean, it's not about money because you may notice if you're from South Africa and you want to become a member, it's 10 Rand a month. So it's not about money because remember, YouTube gets 30% of that. So very little money accrues to the channel. It's just something that you get to be part of a community. And I've created a WhatsApp group for those who are members of the community. So if you would like to be on the WhatsApp group and I don't have your contact, what I ask you to do is that you go to the About tab, send me an email to my email address where you're willing to give me a phone number that you can be part of the group because then your number's in there. And if you're a member, I'll make you part of the Chris Wyatt Africa WhatsApp group so you can share stuff. Kind of Ronaldo Host has a similar thing, so we'll do that. And then I asked that folks who watch the stream, if you found it interesting, please give it a like. By the way, Christian, have you ever liked any of these? I suspect Christian's probably liked a lot of these streams and videos. He's probably smashed that like button more than once. I suspect that. Otherwise, he wouldn't keep hanging around. But anyway, so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. And this has been an interesting, from my perspective, and I think must be interesting for somebody because a lot of people hung around, but an interesting discussion with a lot of South Africans, a couple Americans, and an Englishman pretending to be a South African who's really a South African in Nigel with the German name. But he knows nothing. Anyway, so thank you all for playing along and being part of the program tonight. Reminder, tomorrow, doing the special feature, and I'll take a look and see whether it's worthwhile to do a straight voltage after that. I want to thank everybody so much for being part of it. Thank you for that super chat just came in. And let me, before I go out, because I always do this, I don't want to leave anybody short of anything. I don't want to, not give credit for something where credit is due. So I'm just going to look before we close the stream to see if, in fact, we had any new members, because I didn't see it come up. But sometimes the zombie doesn't climb the Mahalisburg like he's been ordered to do. He's not well disciplined. Speaking of discipline, sometimes he doesn't listen to his elders. And so let's just see if actually any new members came in. I'm just going to check here really quickly. And we have currently members on the channel. We have 59. Okay. Oh, that's right. Reese did this at the beginning. I forgot about that. Oh my goodness. We've been online so long. I forgot that Reese Fundevalt became a member. Wow. And also How to YouTube became a member, and I missed that. I think that was when we were offline. So those two folks joined today. Get You Online, Lynn. Lynn joined us yesterday, and it was at the end of the stream, so I didn't get a chance to thank her. So thank you again for becoming a member. How to YouTube became a member today, and Reese Fundevalt. So we've got Reese and we've got Yanni. All right, now, Yanni, now I need to know who all your relatives are so I can make them members of the channel as well. So we'll discuss that offline. But anyway, so thank you so much for that. All right, so folks, that's it for today. We're going to close it up. We'll see you tomorrow. God bless. Have a pleasant evening. Be safe wherever you find yourself. It's tomorrow in New Zealand. Enjoy your day out there in Kiwi land where you people get to have rugby and the rest of us are screwed. Anyway, God bless. Take care, everybody. So long. Thanks a lot, folks, for who called and appreciate it. Oh, there's a salute. I'll give you guys a salute. There's a proper salute. All right. Take care, guys. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and that has been Indaba Africa this evening. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Let me get my camera back before I go offline, because my camera is not visible to you guys, and before we lose everybody. And it's coming up, and let me get it up here. Come on, be nice. I've got to do a virtual camera to make this work so much better. There we go. All right, so there's my camera with a really, okay, there's the proper appearance. So this has once again been Indaba Africa, Chris White Africa channel. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I really appreciate your participation and your comments and your questions. And we went a little bit off stray there, but this was kind of just a free-flowing one because there really wasn't much to talk about in the way of substance from President Cyril Ramaphosa. He didn't really tell us much of anything except trying to rewrite the history of Eskom and what Eskom is all about and why it's so good to have state-owned companies run by governments. And that was what he was trying to do. Anyway, folks, God bless. Have a good evening. I'm going to close out as usual so I get another copyright claim, even though I have the license to use this, with Giselle and Pleke Ndizon. God bless, and we will see you guys tomorrow.